When a waitress falls for the wrong man, love becomes a death sentence. Lena Carter thought disappearing would save her life. For 5 years, she stayed hidden in Chicago, far from the mafia boss who owned her heart but could never claim her in daylight. Then one evening, black SUVs pulled up outside her apartment. Dante Moretti had found her, and he wasn't alone. The small boy in his arms changed everything she thought she knew about their ending. If you love stories about forbidden love, impossible choices, and second chances built from broken pieces, stay until the end. Hit like and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The restaurant hummed with the kind of quiet wealth that never needed to announce itself. Crystal caught the low amber lighting. Silverware touched porcelain with barely a whisper. Conversations floated in careful tones. The language of people who controlled things, who made decisions that rippled through industries and lives without ever raising their voices. Lena Carter moved through it all like smoke. She'd been working at Belisario's for 2 years, long enough to perfect the art of being invisible. Refill the water glass before it's half empty. Clear the appetizer plates during a pause in conversation, never during. Make eye contact when spoken to, otherwise keep your gaze down. The rules were unspoken but absolute. The clientele didn't want servers. They wanted ghosts who anticipated needs and then disappeared. Most nights, Lena didn't mind. The tips were extraordinary, enough to cover her rent in a decent apartment and send money home to her sister in Arizona. The work was predictable. She clocked in, she served, she went home. No drama, no complications. She should have known that kind of peace never lasted. It was a Thursday in late September when everything changed. Lena had been assigned to the private dining room, the one reserved for guests who valued discretion more than the main floor's elegant theater. 8 men in expensive suits occupied the table. She recognized the type immediately. Powerful, connected, the kind of men who had assistants to handle assistants. She poured water, took drink orders, and was turning to leave when one of them spoke. "The Barolo, the 2010. His voice stopped her mid-step. Not because it was loud, it wasn't. But it carried weight, the kind of certainty that didn't need volume. Lena turned back and found herself looking at a man she hadn't noticed before, which should have been impossible. Dante Moretti sat at the head of the table like he'd been carved from marble and then taught to breathe. Dark hair, darker eyes, a face that managed to be both brutal and beautiful. He wore a suit like armor, but it was his stillness that caught her, the absolute control of someone who never had to prove anything. Their eyes met. Lena forgot how to exhale. "The 2010 Barolo," he repeated, but he was still looking at her. "Unless you'd recommend something else." It was a test. She knew that immediately. Everyone at the table knew it. The room had gone quiet in a way that felt dangerous. "The 2010 is excellent," Lena said, keeping her voice steady. "But if you want something with more complexity, the 2009 has better balance. The tannins have softened. It'll pair better with the osso buco." Something flickered in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "The 2009 then?" She nodded and left before her hands could start shaking. In the wine cellar, Lena pressed her forehead against the cool stone wall and tried to remember how to be professional. She'd served countless wealthy, powerful men. She'd learned to deflect attention, to be pleasant and unremarkable. Whatever had just happened up there, that electric drowning feeling, she needed to lock it down and forget it. She selected the wine, checked the vintage twice, and carried it back upstairs. The dinner lasted 3 hours. Lena moved through her duties on autopilot, hyper-aware of Dante's presence without ever looking directly at him. She could feel his attention on her, though, a physical weight every time she approached the table. When she poured his wine, his fingers brushed hers on the glass. It lasted less than a second. It felt like lightning. By the time the group finally left, Lena's nerves were scraped raw. She cleared the table mechanically, trying to shake off the strange tension that had settled into her bones. It was just a dinner. Just another table. Tomorrow she'd laugh about getting flustered over some rich guy with good cheekbones. "Excuse me." Lena spun around. Dante stood in the doorway of the private room, alone now. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. Taller than she'd thought, with a presence that seemed to consume all the air. "You forgot this." He held out a pen. Lena's pen, the cheap one she always kept in her apron. She knew she hadn't dropped it. Knew this was an excuse, a manufactured reason to come back. She should take the pen, thank him politely, and let him leave. Instead, she heard herself say, "That's not mine." The corner of his mouth lifted. "No? No?" My mistake. He slipped the pen into his jacket pocket. But he didn't leave. You have good taste in wine. It's my job to know the menu. It's more than that. He moved closer, and Lena's heart kicked against her ribs. You understand quality, the difference between what's expensive and what's actually valuable. They're not always the same thing, Lena said carefully. No. His eyes held hers. They're not. The silence stretched between them like pulled wire. Lena knew she should step back, should end whatever this was. But she couldn't move, couldn't look away. What's your name? Dante asked. Lena. Lena. He said it slowly like he was tasting it. I'm Dante. I know. That earned her a real smile. Do you? Mr. Moretti, you have a standing reservation once a month. Everyone knows. And what else do they know? Too much, Lena thought. Rumors circulated among the staff that Dante Moretti was connected to powerful people, that his business interests were complicated, that he was married to some socialite from an old California family. None of it was her concern. That you tip well, she said instead. He laughed, a low sound that did dangerous things to her pulse. Practical. I like that. I should finish clearing the table. Yes, you should. But he didn't move. Neither did she. Finally, Dante reached into his jacket and pulled out a card. He set it on the table between them. If you're ever interested in a better wine education, call me. Lena looked at the card without touching it. I don't think that would be appropriate. Probably not. He moved past her toward the door, close enough that she caught his scent. Expensive cologne and something darker underneath. At the threshold, he paused. But you'll think about it. It wasn't a question. After he left, Lena stared at the card for a long time before slipping it into her apron pocket. She told herself she'd throw it away. She told herself this was nothing, that men like Dante Moretti existed in a completely different world. She was still telling herself that 3 days later when she called the number. They met at a wine bar in Santa Monica, neutral territory far from Belisario's careful discretion. Lena almost didn't go. She changed her mind twice on the drive over, found parking, then sat in her car for 15 minutes trying to figure out what she was doing. This wasn't her. She didn't chase married men, didn't court danger. She'd built a safe, quiet life precisely because drama and chaos had defined her childhood. Her father's gambling, her mother's denial, the constant cycle of debt and crisis. Lena had sworn she'd never repeat those patterns. And yet, she walked into the bar. Dante was already there, seated at a corner table with 2 glasses of wine already poured. He stood when he saw her, that same controlled grace that had caught her attention the first time. You came, he said. I shouldn't have. But you did. He pulled out her chair. That's what matters. Lena sat, feeling the weight of her own bad decisions settle around her shoulders. This is a mistake. Probably. Dante sat across from her, utterly unbothered. Try the wine first, then decide. She wanted to argue, to explain all the reasons this was impossible. Instead, she picked up the glass. The wine was extraordinary, complex and layered, with a finish that lingered long after she swallowed. Lena closed her eyes despite herself, letting the taste develop. When she opened them, Dante was watching her with an expression that made her skin heat. Brunello di Montalcino, he said. 1997, one of the best years. It's perfect. Yes. But he wasn't looking at the wine anymore. They talked for 3 hours. Dante told her about growing up in San Francisco, about learning wine from his grandfather who'd owned vineyards in Sonoma. He talked about business, carefully, vaguely, and about food and art and a dozen other things that had nothing to do with whatever dangerous world he actually inhabited. Lena talked too, more than she'd intended. About her sister, about leaving Arizona, about the strange satisfaction of good service work. She didn't mention that she knew he was married. He didn't mention it either. It was the first of many lies by omission. I need to go, Lena said finally, though nothing in her wanted to leave. When can I see you again? You can't. Dante reached across the table and brushed his thumb across her knuckles. The touch was light, barely there. It felt like falling. Lena, this won't end well, you know that. I know. His dark eyes held hers. Does that change anything? It should have. It absolutely should have. Tuesday, Lena whispered. 7 o'clock. The affair began like wildfire. Sudden, consuming, impossible to control. They met in secret, late dinners at places where no one would recognize them, drives up the coast with the windows down and the ocean stretching endlessly beside them. A rented apartment in West Hollywood that Dante kept for reasons he never fully explained, where they could pretend the outside world didn't exist. Lena knew the rules without being told. No texts, only calls from untraceable numbers. No social media, no photographs. She couldn't tell anyone, not her sister, not her coworkers, not her closest friend. Their relationship lived in shadows and stolen hours, and somehow that made it more intense, more vital. "Tell me something true," Dante said one night, tangled in hotel sheets while rain drummed against the windows. Lena traced patterns on his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her palm. "Like what?" "Anything. Something you've never told anyone." She thought about deflecting, about keeping that last layer of protection intact, but they were already past the point of careful boundaries. "I wanted to be a nurse," she said quietly. "I got accepted to a program, had the loans lined up. Then my dad got sick and I had to drop out to help with medical bills. By the time he died, I'd missed too much school, couldn't get back in." Dante's hand tightened on her waist. "I'm sorry." "It's fine. I made peace with it." "Did you?" Lena rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling. "I tell myself I did. Most days I even believe it. You could try again, go back to school. It's expensive, and I'm not getting any younger." "You're 26. 27 next month." Dante shifted, propping himself up on one elbow to look at her. In the dim light, his expression was unreadable. "If money weren't an issue, if you could do anything, what would you choose?" "That's not how life works." "Answer the question, Lena." She met his eyes. "Healthcare. Still. Maybe not a nurse anymore, but something in that field, something that matters." He nodded slowly, like he was filing that information away. They didn't talk about it again that night, but 2 weeks later, Dante handed her an envelope. Inside was information for a healthcare administration program at UCLA, and a check that would cover the entire first year. Lena stared at it, her hands shaking. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can." "Dante, no strings, no expectations." He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "You said you wanted something that matters, so take it." That was when Lena knew she was in too deep. When the affair stopped being just physical and became something else entirely, something that felt dangerously close to love. 6 months in, reality started showing cracks. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Lena was leaving Belisario's after her shift when she saw them, Dante and his wife, standing outside a theater across the street. Victoria Moretti was everything Lena wasn't. Elegant, polished, born into the kind of wealth that showed in her posture. She wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Lena's monthly rent, and she was laughing at something Dante had said. Lena's stomach dropped. She'd known Dante was married. She'd known from the beginning, but knowing theoretically and seeing the evidence were entirely different things. Watching Dante touch his wife's elbow, guide her toward a waiting car, smile that same devastating smile, it shattered something inside Lena that she hadn't realized was still intact. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Apartment. 1 hour. Lena deleted it without responding. She went home instead, poured a glass of wine she didn't drink, and sat in the dark trying to figure out what the hell she was doing. This wasn't sustainable. This wasn't a relationship. It was borrowed time, stolen moments that would eventually collapse under the weight of reality. Her phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again. On the third call, she answered, "Where are you?" Dante's voice was rough with concern. "Home. You were supposed to meet me. I saw you tonight, with your wife." Silence. Then, "Lena, don't. Just don't." She pressed her fingers against her eyes, fighting back tears she had no right to shed. "I knew what this was. I'm not naive, but seeing it, seeing her, I'll come over." "No." "Lena, let me explain." "Explain what?" Her voice broke despite her best efforts. "That you have a whole life I'm not part of? That I'm the secret you keep tucked away while you play the devoted husband? I already know all of that, Dante. I've always known. It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Another pause. Longer this time. When Dante finally spoke, his voice was raw in a way she'd never heard before. "My marriage is a contract. An arrangement between families that was decided before I had any say in it. Victoria knows what it is. She has her life, I have mine. That's convenient. It's the truth. I don't love her, Lena. I've never loved her. But you married her anyway. Yes. And you'll stay married to her. It's complicated. It's really not. Lena laughed, but it came out bitter. You have obligations, family expectations. I understand. But I'm not going to pretend it doesn't hurt to be the thing you keep hidden. You're not a thing. Don't reduce this to What am I then? What are we? Dante didn't answer right away. In the silence, Lena heard everything he wasn't saying. I should go, she said finally. Lena, wait. She hung up. For 3 days, she didn't answer his calls. She went to work, came home, and tried to convince herself that ending things was the right choice. The smart choice. The only choice that made sense. On the 4th day, Dante showed up at her apartment. Lena opened the door and found him standing there, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd come from, looking more undone than she'd ever seen him. You can't be here, she said. I know. Dante, I love you. The words hit like a physical blow. Lena gripped the doorframe, suddenly unsteady. Don't say that. It's true. He moved closer, and she hated how much she wanted to reach for him. I've been trying not to say it, trying to keep this simple. But it's not simple, Lena. It stopped being simple the first night I met you. You're married. I know. You have a wife. I know. And you're going to stay married to her. Dante's jaw tightened. My family. The business. It's not something I can just walk away from. Victoria's family has connections, power. Leaving her would mean war, Lena. Literal war. People would die. So I'm supposed to just accept being the mistress? The secret? No. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. You're supposed to let me figure out a way to make this work. To find a solution that doesn't destroy everything. There is no solution, Dante. This is what it is. Then let it be what it is. His thumb brushed her cheek. Because walking away from you isn't an option. I've tried. I can't. Lena should have been strong, should have ended it right there. But she was exhausted from fighting what she felt, from pretending this was just physical, from lying to herself about what Dante had become to her. So she kissed him instead. And with that kiss, she sealed them both into a future that could only end in heartbreak. The next 2 years were the best and worst of Lena's life. She enrolled in the healthcare program at UCLA. The classes were challenging, demanding, exactly what she'd hoped for. She discovered she had a gift for patient advocacy, for navigating the complex systems that so often left vulnerable people behind. For the first time since dropping out of nursing school, Lena felt like she was building something that mattered. But every achievement was shadowed by the reality of her relationship with Dante. They settled into a rhythm, careful and controlled. Lena finished her shifts at Belisario's. She'd kept the job partly for the income, partly for the cover, and met Dante at the West Hollywood apartment 2 or 3 times a week. They talked about everything and nothing. He helped her study for exams. She introduced him to old movies he'd never seen. They cooked dinner together, made love, fell asleep tangled in each other. And then he went home to his wife. Lena tried not to think about it, tried to live in the moments they had rather than mourning the ones they didn't. But it was getting harder, especially when Dante started canceling plans. Business dinner, he'd say, or family obligation. The explanations were always vague, always apologetic. Lena accepted them because the alternative was questioning him, and questions led to fights, and fights led to the kind of conversations that might shatter what they'd built. But she noticed things. The way Dante's phone rang more frequently, the tension that had started living in his shoulders, the nights when he'd show up late, distracted, his mind clearly somewhere else. Are you okay? Lena asked one evening, watching him stare out the window without really seeing anything. Fine. You're a terrible liar. That got a half smile. Usually I'm an excellent liar. Not with me. Dante turned to look at her, and something in his expression made Lena's chest tighten. No, not with you. So tell me what's wrong. He was quiet for a long time, then, there are things happening in my world right now, complicated things. I'm trying to keep you separate from all of it, but what? But it's getting harder to maintain boundaries. Lena's pulse quickened. What kind of things? The kind you don't need to know about. Dante. I mean it, Lena. His voice went hard in a way that reminded her exactly who he was. Not just her lover, but someone who operated in a world she didn't understand. The less you know, the safer you are. Safer from what? He didn't answer, just pulled her close and held her like she might disappear. That was the first time Lena truly understood the danger she was in. Not from Dante, never from him, but from the life he led, the people he answered to, the enemies he'd made. She was a vulnerability now, a weak point. And in Dante's world, weaknesses got exploited. She should have run then. She didn't. The beginning of the end came on a cold February night. Lena was at the apartment, studying for her final exams, when Dante arrived earlier than expected. He looked different, his face drawn, his movements stiff, like he was carrying something too heavy to set down. "Hey," Lena said, closing her textbook. "I wasn't expecting you until later." Dante poured himself a drink without answering. Scotch. Neat. He downed it in one swallow and poured another. "Okay, now you're scaring me. What happened?" "Victoria's pregnant." The words landed like a bomb. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room tilted sideways. "What?" "She's pregnant. 3 months." 3 months? They'd been together for almost 3 years, and Victoria had been pregnant for 3 months. Lena did the math automatically, unwillingly. That meant, "You slept with her," she said flatly. "Lena, you slept with your wife while you were with me." It wasn't. Dante ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked lost. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Lena stood, suddenly needing distance. "Did you accidentally fall into bed with her? Trip and land with your—" "It was expected." The words came out harsh, almost angry. "Do you understand what my marriage is? What's required of me?" Her family has been asking questions, making implications. An heir has been part of the arrangement since the beginning. So you just decided to give them one. I didn't decide anything. This isn't a relationship where decisions are mutual, Lena. It's a contract, a performance. A performance that involves creating a child. Dante's silence was answer enough. Lena wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. "You should have told me, before. When you knew you were going to, when you planned to, there was no plan. It happened once. One time in 3 years, and I hated every second of it. But you did it anyway." "Yes." He met her eyes, and she saw the truth there, the guilt, the regret, but also the resignation. "Because this is my reality. This is who I am, and what my life demands. And what am I?" The question came out smaller than she'd intended. "What am I in all of this?" Dante crossed to her in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. "You're everything. You're the only real thing in my entire life. But I can't, Lena, I can't leave her now. Not with a baby coming. My family would never allow it. Victoria's family would see it as war." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need you to wait. Just until things settle. Once the baby's born, once there's an heir. You want me to wait while you play happy family with your wife and newborn?" Lena laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "How long, Dante? A year? 5 years? Forever?" "I don't know." "You don't know." She pulled away from him. "That's not good enough. It's all I have." They stared at each other across 3 feet of space that felt like miles. Lena saw their entire relationship laid bare in that moment, all the beautiful lies they told themselves, all the impossible promises. She'd known from the beginning this couldn't last. She'd just been stupid enough to hope anyway. "I need you to go," she said quietly. "Lena, please, just go." Dante didn't move. "I love you." "I know." Tears finally spilled over, hot against her cold skin. "But it's not enough. It was never going to be enough. Don't do this. Don't end this. You ended it when you decided to have a child with her. You just didn't tell me." "That's not fair. None of this is fair." The words came out as a shout. "I'm in love with a married man who just told me his wife is pregnant and expects me to smile and wait around while he builds a life with someone else. Nothing about this has ever been fair." Dante looked like she'd struck him. Good. She wanted him to hurt the way she was hurting. "If you leave," his voice was raw, "if you walk away from this, you'll what? Come find me? Force me to be your mistress forever?" Lena shook her head. "Let me go, Dante. It's the kindest thing you could do." He stood there for a long moment, and Lena watched him fight with himself. Watched the man who controlled everything struggle with the one thing he couldn't command. Finally, he nodded. Just once. Then he walked out of the apartment and out of her life. Lena waited until she heard his car drive away. Then she collapsed onto the floor and sobbed until she had nothing left inside her. The next morning, Lena called in sick to work. She spent the day in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to exist in a world that didn't include Dante Moretti. By evening, she'd made her decision. She couldn't stay in California. Every restaurant might be his, every street corner a reminder. She needed distance, physical, emotional, complete. She needed to rebuild somewhere he couldn't accidentally find her, somewhere she could breathe without drowning in might-have-beens. Chicago. Her sister lived there now, had been begging Lena to visit for months. It was far enough away to feel like escape, big enough to disappear into. Lena had credits from UCLA that would transfer. She could finish her degree, start over, become someone who'd never fallen in love with a man who could never fully be hers. She booked a train ticket for the end of the week. One way. She told her manager at Belisario's she was leaving, gave them proper notice even though she wanted to run immediately. She packed her apartment methodically, donating most of her furniture, boxing up clothes and books, and the fragments of a life that had never quite been real. Dante called, texted, left voicemails she deleted without listening to. She changed her number on the fourth day. On her last night in California, Lena stood on her empty apartment balcony and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Dante was probably at some dinner, some meeting, playing his role in the elaborate theater of his life. Maybe he was thinking about her. Maybe he'd already started forgetting. It didn't matter. This was the right choice. The only choice. Lena touched her stomach, still flat, still unremarkable. She'd discovered she was pregnant 3 days ago, the morning after their final fight. The timing was almost cruel in its precision. She hadn't told him, wouldn't tell him. This was her burden to carry, her decision to make. Dante had chosen his path when he'd chosen to give Victoria an heir. Lena was choosing hers now. The next morning, she boarded a train to Chicago. She never looked back. Chicago hit Lena like a wall of ice. She'd forgotten how winter felt in the Midwest, the kind of cold that went straight through your coat and settled into your bones. California had made her soft. 3 years of sunshine and ocean breezes, and she'd forgotten what real weather was. Her sister met her at Union Station, bundling her into a hug that smelled like vanilla and home. "You look terrible," Maya said, pulling back to examine Lena's face. "When's the last time you slept?" "On the train, sort of." "That's not sleep, that's passing out." Maya grabbed one of Lena's suitcases. "Come on, I've got the guest room set up. You're going to eat, shower, and then we're going to talk about whatever happened that made you run halfway across the country with 3 days' notice." Lena followed her sister out into the freezing February afternoon, grateful that Maya knew when to push and when to just let silence do the work. They drove through downtown Chicago, all steel and glass, and crowds of people bundled against the wind. It was nothing like Los Angeles. That was the point. Maya's apartment was small but warm, filled with plants and books, and the comfortable clutter of someone who'd actually built a life. She worked as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center, had a boyfriend she didn't live with yet, friends she saw on weekends. Normal things, safe things. "So," Maya said, once Lena had showered and changed into borrowed sweats. She set a bowl of soup in front of her. "Are you going to tell me what happened, or do I have to guess?" "Man trouble. I figured that much, the kind that follows you or the kind you're running from." Lena picked up her spoon, then set it down. "The kind that can't follow me. That's why I'm here." Maya studied her for a long moment. "You loved him." "Yeah." "Was he married?" Lena's silence was answer enough. "Jesus, Lena." Maya sat down across from her. "How long?" 3 years. 3 years? And you never said anything? What was I supposed to say? "Hi, Maya. I'm sleeping with a married man who'll never leave his wife. But it's fine because I tell myself I'm okay with it?" Lena laughed bitterly. "There's no version of that conversation that doesn't make me sound pathetic." "You're not pathetic. You're human." Maya reached across the table, squeezing Lena's hand. "But you're also not telling me everything. What finally made you leave?" Lena opened her mouth to tell her about Victoria's pregnancy, about the final fight, about all the reasons she'd run. But the words stuck in her throat because behind them was the bigger truth, the one she hadn't even fully processed yet. "I'm pregnant," she said instead. Maya's eyes went wide. "What?" 8 weeks, give or take. I found out right before I left." "Does he know?" "No. And he's not going to." Lena pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. "His wife is pregnant too. Due in 6 months. He made his choice, Maya. I'm making mine." "Lena, I don't want his money. I don't want his help. I don't want anything from him except distance." The certainty in her own voice surprised her. I can do this. I have my credits from UCLA. I can transfer to a program here, finish my degree, get a job in healthcare, raise this baby on my own. Maya looked at her like she was trying to solve a complicated equation. Okay, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm here. You can stay as long as you need. I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're family. Maya stood, came around the table, and pulled Lena into a hug. We'll figure it out. Whatever you need. Lena held on to her sister and let herself cry for the second time in a week. But these tears felt different, less like breaking and more like release. Like maybe, despite everything, she was going to survive this. The next morning, Lena woke up and started building a new life. She enrolled at DePaul University to finish her healthcare administration degree. She found a part-time job at a medical clinic doing intake and filing. Nothing glamorous, but it paid and gave her experience. She moved out of Maya's place after 2 months into a studio apartment in Logan Square, small but hers, with windows that faced east and caught the morning light. She tried not to think about Dante, tried not to wonder if he'd looked for her, if he'd cared that she'd vanished, tried not to imagine what he'd think when he realized she'd been pregnant when she left. Most days she succeeded. Most days she was too busy surviving to dwell on the past. But some nights, alone in her apartment, with her hand on her growing belly, Lena let herself remember. The way Dante laughed at her terrible jokes. The way he'd listened when she talked about her dreams, like they actually mattered. The way he'd made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. Then she'd remember Victoria's pregnancy, the careful distance in Dante's voice when he'd said, I need you to wait. And the anger would wash away the nostalgia. He'd made his choice. She'd made hers. That was the end of it. At least, that's what she told herself. The pregnancy was harder than Lena had anticipated. Morning sickness lasted well into her second trimester. Her body changed in ways that felt alien and uncomfortable. She was exhausted constantly, fighting to keep up with classes and work, while her body demanded rest she couldn't afford to take. Maya was a constant presence, showing up with groceries and terrible movies, and the kind of steady support Lena had never quite believed she deserved. Her sister's boyfriend, Marcus, turned out to be handy with furniture assembly and didn't ask invasive questions. They built a crib together one Saturday in April, and Lena cried over the instruction manual for no reason she could articulate. Hormones, Maya said, handing her tissues. You're allowed to be a mess. I don't want to be a mess. I want to be competent and prepared and human? You're allowed to be that too. Lena wiped her eyes, laughing despite herself. When did you get so wise? Therapy. Highly recommend it. Can't afford it. Then lean on me. That's free. By her third trimester, Lena had hit a rhythm. She'd finished her degree requirements and accepted a job at a community health center on the South Side. The work was challenging, managing patient advocacy programs, navigating insurance nightmares, helping people who'd fallen through every crack in the system. It was exactly what she'd wanted to do, and she was good at it. She attended birthing classes alone, practiced breathing exercises in her apartment, and tried not to notice the couples around her with their matching enthusiasm and shared fear. This was her journey. She was doing it on her own terms. The baby came on a humid night in late August, 3 weeks early, and absolutely determined to make an entrance. Maya drove her to the hospital while Lena gripped the door handle and tried to remember everything she'd learned about managing pain. You're doing great, Maya said, which was a lie. But Lena appreciated it anyway. Labor lasted 14 hours. Lena had never experienced anything so brutal, so consuming, so completely beyond her control. She screamed, she cried, she threatened to walk out of the hospital and come back when the baby was ready to just appear fully formed. That's not how this works, the nurse said, unimpressed. It should be, Lena gasped between contractions. When her daughter finally arrived, small and red and furiously angry about being born, Lena felt something shift fundamentally inside her chest. This tiny, perfect creature was hers, not Dante's, not anyone else's. Hers to protect, to raise, to love. She's beautiful, Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. Lena couldn't speak, could only stare at the baby in her arms and feel the weight of every choice that had led to this moment. The mistakes, the heartbreak, the running away. All of it had brought her here, to this. Mia, she said finally. Her name is Mia. The first year of Mia's life passed in a blur of sleepless nights and endless diapers, and the kind of exhaustion Lena hadn't known was possible. Her daughter was colicky, demanding, and slept in 45-minute increments that left Lena stumbling through her days like a zombie. Work was understanding, to a point. Maya helped when she could. But mostly, Lena was on her own, figuring out how to be a mother while also being a professional, while also being a person who occasionally needed to shower and eat and sleep. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. It was also the best. Mia grew. Rolled over at 4 months, sat up at 6, took her first steps at 11 months while Lena was at work, and Maya was babysitting. Lena cried when she heard, mourning the milestone she'd missed, then laughed when Mia demonstrated her new skill by promptly falling on her butt. "She's got your stubborn streak," Maya observed. "Poor kid never had a chance." By Mia's second birthday, Lena had been promoted at the health center. She was managing 3 different patient advocacy programs, training new staff, building partnerships with other clinics across the city. The work was meaningful in a way her restaurant job had never been. She was helping people, making a difference, using her education for something that actually mattered. Her personal life was non-existent, but that was fine. She didn't have time for dating, didn't have energy for anything beyond Mia and work, and the occasional girls' night with Maya when she could arrange childcare. Romance felt like a luxury from another lifetime, something that belonged to a different version of herself. She never talked about Mia's father. When people asked, she said he wasn't in the picture. When they pushed, she changed the subject. Maya was the only person who knew the truth, and she'd learned not to bring it up. Lena had built a good life in Chicago, a clean life, safe. No drama, no dangerous men, no secrets that could explode and destroy everything. She should have known peace never lasted. Mia was 4 when Lena started noticing the car. It was subtle at first, a black sedan parked across from the health center when she left work. The same sedan near her apartment building the next day. Then again outside Mia's preschool. Lena told herself she was being paranoid. Chicago was a big city. Black sedans were common. It didn't mean anything. But the feeling of being watched grew stronger. She started checking over her shoulder, taking different routes home, parking in different spots. She bought pepper spray and kept it in her purse, started screening her calls more carefully. "You okay?" Maya asked one evening when Lena canceled their dinner plans for the 3rd time. "You seem jumpy." "Just stressed about work." "Lena, I'm fine, really." She wasn't fine. She was terrified in a way she couldn't quite name, some instinct screaming that her carefully constructed world was about to collapse. The call came on a Wednesday in October. Lena was at work, mediating between a patient and their insurance company, when her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Then again. On the 4th call, she excused herself and answered. "Hello? Lena Carter?" The voice was unfamiliar, male, professional. "Who's asking?" "My name is Vincent Russo. I work for Dante Moretti. He'd like to speak with you." Lena's blood turned to ice. "I don't know who that is." "Ms. Carter, please don't make this difficult. Mr. Moretti has been trying to locate you for several years. He simply wants to talk." "Tell Mr. Moretti I have nothing to say to him." Her voice was shaking. "And tell him to stop following me." "Following you? Ms. Carter, I assure you—" Lena hung up. Her hands were trembling so badly she could barely hold the phone. 5 years. She'd had 5 years of peace, of distance, of building a life that didn't include Dante Moretti. And now he'd found her. She made it through the rest of her workday on autopilot, her mind racing through possibilities. What did he want? Why now? Did he know about Mia? That last thought made her stomach drop. If Dante knew about Mia, if he decided he wanted to be involved, Lena had no idea what he was capable of. She'd left before ever really understanding the extent of his power, his connections. What if he tried to take Mia? What if he— "Stop," she told herself firmly. "You're spiraling." But knowing she was spiraling and being able to stop it were 2 different things. That night, Lena picked Mia up from preschool and drove to Maya's apartment instead of going home. "What's wrong?" Maya asked, taking one look at Lena's face. "He found me." Maya didn't have to ask who. She ushered them inside, set Mia up with crayons and cartoons, then pulled Lena into the kitchen. "What happened?" Lena told her about the calls, the car she'd been seeing, the man who'd claimed to work for Dante. Maya listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally. "I don't know. Ignore him? Hope he goes away?" "You really think that'll work?" "No." Lena didn't think that would work at all. She knew Dante well enough to know that when he wanted something, he didn't give up easily. And apparently, after 5 years, he still wanted something from her. The question was what? Over the next week, Lena tried to maintain normalcy while her anxiety ratcheted higher. She didn't answer any more calls from unknown numbers. She varied her routes even more, checked her car for tracking devices, started looking into whether she could get a restraining order against someone who technically hadn't done anything threatening. Then, on a Friday evening, she came home to find an envelope taped to her apartment door. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Lena, I know you don't want to hear from me. I understand why, but I need to see you. Please, just once. There are things you need to know. D." At the bottom was an address for a hotel in downtown Chicago and a time, Saturday, 2 p.m. Lena read the note 3 times, her heart hammering. She should ignore it, should throw it away and pretend it never existed. Dante had no right to demand anything from her, not after 5 years of silence. But the note hadn't felt like a demand. It had felt like a plea. And despite everything, despite all the reasons she should stay away, Lena found herself wondering what he wanted to say. What could possibly be so important that he'd tracked her across the country after half a decade? Saturday came too quickly. Lena spent the morning in knots, trying to decide whether to go. Maya offered to watch Mia, which somehow made the decision harder. If she had an excuse not to go, she'd take it. But Maya was giving her the option, and Lena couldn't quite bring herself to refuse. "You don't have to do this," Maya said as Lena got ready. "I know. If he tries anything, he won't." Lena said it with more confidence than she felt. "Dante's a lot of things, but he wouldn't hurt me. He already did hurt you. That's why you left." Lena didn't have an answer for that. The hotel was expensive, the kind of place that had doormen and marble floors and the hushed atmosphere of serious wealth. Lena felt underdressed in her simple jeans and sweater, but she hadn't wanted to give this meeting more importance than it deserved. She asked for Dante's room number at the desk. The concierge didn't even blink, just handed her a keycard and directions to the top floor. Of course he'd gotten a penthouse. Lena rode the elevator up, her pulse pounding in her ears. She hadn't seen Dante in 5 years, hadn't heard his voice, hadn't let herself think about him beyond the occasional unwanted memory. What if seeing him undid all the work she'd done to move on? What if... The elevator doors opened. Dante was standing in the hallway, and Lena forgot how to breathe. He looked older. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before, gray threading through his dark hair. He'd lost weight, she thought, or maybe just the ease he used to carry. He looked tired in a bone-deep way that even his expensive suit couldn't hide. But his eyes, those were the same. Dark and intense and fixed on her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Lena," he said, and his voice cracked on her name. She stepped out of the elevator on legs that felt unsteady. "You shouldn't have come here." "I know." "You shouldn't have looked for me." "I know." "Then why—" Her voice broke. She hated that it broke. "Why are you here, Dante?" He moved closer, and Lena forced herself not to step back. "Because I need to tell you the truth. About what happened after you left. About Victoria. About—" He stopped, his jaw working. "About everything. I don't want to know about your wife." "She's dead, Lena." The words hit like a physical blow. Lena stared at him, trying to process what he'd just said. "What?" "Victoria died 3 years ago. Complications from the pregnancy. The baby—" Dante's voice went rough. "The baby survived, but she didn't." "I don't—" Lena's mind was racing. 3 years ago? And you're just now— "I didn't know where you were. You disappeared completely. Changed your number, left no forwarding address. It took me 2 years just to find out you'd gone to Chicago." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. "And then another year to actually locate you. You covered your tracks well. I didn't want to be found." "I know, but there are things you need to know, things that—" He glanced down the hallway. "Can we talk inside, please?" Every instinct Lena had screamed at her to leave, to walk away before this conversation went any further. But there was something in Dante's expression, something desperate and haunted, that kept her frozen. "5 minutes," she said finally. "Then I'm leaving." The penthouse suite was enormous, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. Lena stayed near the door, arms crossed defensively. Dante poured himself a drink, then seemed to think better of it, and set the glass down untouched. "Victoria and I never had a real marriage. You knew that. You slept with her, got her pregnant, once. In 3 years, once. Because my family demanded it, because her family demanded it, because that was the arrangement." He turned to face her. "You want to know the truth? I thought about you the entire time, hated myself for it, Hated that I was doing exactly what you'd accused me of, choosing duty over you. So why did you do it? Because I was a coward. The admission seemed to cost him. Because I thought I could have both, keep you and fulfill my obligations. I thought I could make it work. You couldn't. No, I couldn't. Dante moved closer, but stopped when Lena tensed. When you left, I lost my mind. I called everyone I could think of, went to your sister's old address, checked every database I had access to. You just vanished. That was the point. I know. And you had every right to run. Every right to hate me. His voice dropped. But then Victoria went into labor early. There were complications. The baby came, a boy, healthy, but Victoria hemorrhaged. They couldn't stop it. Lena felt a stab of sympathy despite herself. I'm sorry. She died within hours, and suddenly I had a newborn son and no idea what I was doing. Dante's expression was bleak. My family wanted to bring in nannies, raise him the way they raised me. Cold, controlled. I couldn't stomach it. So I stepped back from the business, started trying to be an actual father instead of just a name on a birth certificate. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand, I'm not the same man you left. The last 3 years have broken me down and rebuilt me into something different. Better, I hope, but definitely different. Lena shook her head. It doesn't matter, Dante. Whatever you're looking for, forgiveness, closure, a second chance, I can't give it to you. I have a life here, a good life, and I'm not interested in revisiting the past. I'm not asking you to revisit anything. He pulled something from his pocket, a photograph, and held it out. I'm asking you to meet my son. Lena took the photo automatically. It showed a small boy, maybe 3 or 4, with dark hair and serious eyes. He looked like Dante, the resemblance unmistakable. His name is Leo, Dante said quietly. He's 4 years old, smart as hell, and scared of everything. Thunder, strangers, the dark. He has nightmares about his mother dying, even though he was too young to remember her. Dante, he needs stability, warmth, someone who knows how to actually love a child instead of just managing them. Dante's eyes met hers. I know I have no right to ask. I know I ruined everything between us. But I'm not here for me, Lena. I'm here for him. The audacity of it stole her breath. You want me to what? Be his mother? After you chose his actual mother over me? I'm asking you to meet him, that's all. One meeting. Why would I do that? Because you're a good person. Because you work in healthcare helping vulnerable people. Because despite everything I did to you, I know you wouldn't turn away from a child who needs help. It was manipulation, pure and simple, using her own compassion against her. Lena should tell him to go to hell, should walk out right now and never look back. But the image of the small, frightened boy in the photograph kept floating in her mind. One meeting, she heard herself say, but not with me, with a child psychologist. If he needs help, I can give you referrals to good therapists who specialize in childhood trauma. I've tried therapists. He doesn't connect with them. Dante took a step closer. I think he needs someone real. Someone who isn't being paid to care. I'm not going to be your free therapy. I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking... He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. I'm asking you to consider the possibility that maybe we both deserve a second chance. Not at what we had. That's gone. But it's something new. There is no we, Dante. There hasn't been for 5 years. Then let there be Leo and you. Let there be a scared kid and someone who might be able to help him. Lena wanted to say no. Wanted to protect the life she'd built, the peace she'd found. But she kept thinking about Mia, about what she'd want someone to do if Mia were the one struggling and alone. I'll think about it, she said finally. Relief flooded Dante's face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I haven't agreed to anything. Lena headed for the door. If I decide to do this, and that's a big if, it'll be on my terms. Supervised, public places only, and the second I think it's not working, I'm out. Whatever you need. Lena paused with her hand on the doorknob. You really built your entire search around convincing me to help your son? No. Dante's voice went soft. I built it around seeing you one more time. Leo was just the only excuse I thought you might accept. The honesty in his voice made something twist in Lena's chest. She left without responding, before he could say anything else that might crack her resolve. In the elevator, Lena leaned against the wall and tried to process what had just happened. Dante was in Chicago. Dante had a son. Dante wanted her to... what exactly? Be part of their lives? Fix the broken child he'd created with another woman? The elevator doors opened, and Lena walked out into the cooling October evening. She needed air, needed space to think without Dante's presence clouding her judgment. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for hearing me out. Whatever you decide, I meant what I said." "You deserve good things, Lena. I hope you found them." She stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it. Then she got in her car and drove to pick up Mia, forcing herself to focus on her daughter instead of the man who'd just upended her carefully constructed peace. But that night, lying in bed while Mia slept in the next room, Lena couldn't stop thinking about the boy in the photograph, about his scared eyes and his nightmares, about what it would cost her to help him and what it would cost her conscience if she didn't. She didn't sleep. And in the morning, she found herself typing out a text to the number Dante had used. "One meeting tomorrow. Lincoln Park Zoo, 2 p.m. Bring Leo. Don't be late." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she spent the rest of the day wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. Lena regretted the text message within an hour of sending it. By noon the next day, she'd convinced herself at least a dozen times to cancel. She drafted the message multiple times. Something came up, can't make it, or this was a mistake, or simply no. But each time she'd think about that photograph of Leo, about his frightened eyes, and she'd delete the draft without sending. Maya thought she was insane. "You're actually going to meet him? Meet them?" Her sister paced Lena's small living room while Mia played with blocks on the floor, oblivious to the tension. "After everything he put you through? It's just one meeting, in public. What's the worst that could happen? You fall for him again, you let him back into your life, you forget every reason you left." Maya stopped pacing, fixing Lena with a hard stare. "And what about Mia? What happens when he figures out the math?" That was the question keeping Lena up at night. Mia had just turned 4, the same age as Leo. Dante wasn't stupid. If he saw them together, if he really looked at Mia's face, her dark eyes, the shape of her mouth. "He won't see her," Lena said firmly. "I'm meeting them alone. You're watching Mia. There's no reason for him to know. Yet. Ever, Maya. There's no reason for him to ever know." Her sister looked at her with something between pity and frustration. "You really think you can keep that secret if you let him back in your life?" "I'm not letting him back in. I'm meeting his son once, maybe offering some advice, and then I'm done." "You keep telling yourself that." Lena arrived at Lincoln Park Zoo 15 minutes early, her stomach in knots. October in Chicago meant the trees were turning. Leaves scattered across the paths in brilliant reds and golds. Families wandered through the grounds, kids running ahead while parents followed with strollers and tired expressions. Normal people living normal lives. Unlike Lena, who was about to meet the son of her ex-lover while hiding the existence of their daughter, she found a bench near the sea lion pool and sat down, trying to slow her racing heart. This was stupid. This was dangerous. She should leave right now, text Dante that she'd changed her mind, go back to her apartment and pretend this whole thing had never happened. "Lena?" She turned. Dante stood a few feet away, and beside him, holding his hand with white-knuckled intensity, was Leo. The photograph hadn't done the boy justice. He was small for 4, with Dante's dark hair and sharp features softened by childhood. He wore jeans and a jacket that looked expensive, and he stared at Lena with an expression that was equal parts curious and terrified. "Hi," Lena said softly, staying seated so she wouldn't loom over him. "You must be Leo." The boy pressed closer to Dante's leg. "It's okay," Dante said quietly, crouching down to Leo's level. "Remember what we talked about? Lena's a friend. She's nice." "You said Mommy was nice too," Leo whispered, barely audible. "But she went away." The words hit Lena square in the chest. She watched Dante's face crumple for just a second before he smoothed it away, the control settling back over his features like a mask. "Lena's not going anywhere right now," Dante said. "She just wants to say hello. Is that okay?" Leo considered this for a long moment, then gave the tiniest nod. Dante straightened, meeting Lena's eyes over his son's head. The gratitude there was almost painful to witness. "Thank you for coming. Don't thank me yet." Lena stood slowly, keeping her movements deliberate and non-threatening. "Hey Leo, do you like animals?" Another tiny nod. "What's your favorite?" Silence. Leo looked up at Dante, who gave him an encouraging smile. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, the boy said, "Penguins. Penguins are great. Want to go see them?" Leo's grip on Dante's hand tightened, but he nodded again. They walked slowly toward the penguin exhibit, an awkward trio that probably looked like a family to anyone passing by. The thought made Lena's stomach twist. She kept a careful distance from Dante, focusing entirely on Leo, who hadn't let go of his father's hand. The penguins were active, diving and swimming in their pool. A small crowd had gathered to watch, families with children pressing against the glass. Leo hung back, uncertain. "They're fast, aren't they?" Lena said conversationally. "I always thought penguins would be slow because of how they walk on land, but in the water, they're like little rockets." "Rockets," Leo repeated softly, testing the word. "Yeah, see that one?" Lena pointed to a penguin shooting through the water. "I bet he's racing the others." "Who's winning?" "Hard to say. They're all pretty quick." Lena glanced down at Leo. "What do you think?" For the first time, Leo looked directly at her, instead of at the ground, or his father. His eyes were Dante's eyes, dark and intense. But there was a vulnerability there that made Lena's chest ache. "The one with the spot," Leo said, pointing to a penguin with a distinctive marking on its wing. "He's fastest." "Good eye," Lena smiled. "Want to get closer so we can see better?" Leo looked up at Dante, who nodded. Slowly the boy released his father's hand and moved toward the glass. Lena stayed beside him, close but not touching, while Dante hung back slightly. They watched the penguins for several minutes in comfortable silence. Gradually, Leo relaxed, his shoulders dropping from around his ears. He even laughed once when one of the penguins belly flopped into the water. "They're silly," he said. "Very silly," Lena agreed. "That's what makes them fun to watch." "Do you come here a lot?" "Sometimes. When I need to think, or when—" Lena stopped herself before saying, "when Mia wants to see the animals. When I need to get out of my apartment." "We live in a hotel," Leo said matter-of-factly. "Daddy says it's temporary." "Hotels can be fun, though." "Do they have a pool?" "Yeah, but it's cold, and there are too many people." Leo's expression clouded. "I don't like when there are too many people." "That's okay. Lots of people don't like crowds." "Daddy says I need to be braver." Lena glanced back at Dante, who was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing things even when you are scared, like coming here today to meet me. That was brave." Leo considered this. "Are you scared sometimes?" "All the time?" "Really?" "Really. Everyone gets scared, even grown-ups." "Daddy doesn't get scared." Lena almost laughed. If only this kid knew how scared his father had been 5 years ago, watching his entire world crack apart. "I bet he does. He just doesn't always show it." They moved on to the other exhibits, Leo gradually warming up enough to ask questions and point things out. He liked the lions, but was disappointed they were sleeping. He thought the gorillas looked sad. He wanted to know if the flamingos were always pink or if they painted themselves. "They eat special food that makes them pink," Lena explained. "Shrimp and algae." "What's algae?" "Like pond plants. Green slimy stuff." Leo wrinkled his nose. "That sounds gross." "Probably tastes gross to us. But flamingos love it." Dante had been quiet most of the time, trailing behind them like a shadow. But when they stopped at a cafe for hot chocolate, he finally spoke. "You're good with him." Lena watched Leo carefully carry his cup to a table, his tongue sticking out in concentration. "I work with kids sometimes. At the health center. You pick up things." "It's more than that." Dante's voice was low, meant only for her. "He never opens up this fast. Not with anyone. Maybe he just needed someone who wasn't trying so hard. Maybe." Dante paid for their drinks, and they joined Leo at the table. "Or maybe he recognized something in you." Before Lena could respond, Leo piped up. "Can we feed the ducks?" "There aren't ducks here, buddy," Dante said. "This is a zoo." "There's a pond, though. I saw it." Leo looked at Lena. "Can we go see if there are ducks?" "We can look," Lena said, "but we can't feed them even if there are. It's not good for them." "Why not?" "Because bread makes them sick. Their stomachs can't handle it." "Oh." Leo absorbed this information seriously. "We shouldn't make them sick." "No, we shouldn't." They found the pond, which did have a few ducks gliding across the surface. Leo sat on the grass watching them, and after a moment's hesitation, Lena sat beside him. Dante remained standing, his phone buzzing periodically with messages he ignored. "My mommy's in heaven," Leo said suddenly, still watching the ducks. Lena's breath caught. "I know, your dad told me." Do you think she can see me from there? The question was so earnest, so heartbreaking that Lena had to swallow hard before answering. I think if heaven is real, then yeah, she probably can. Daddy says she loved me very much. I'm sure she did. But she left anyway. Leo picked at the grass. Everyone leaves. Not everyone. Your dad's still here. For now. The boy's voice was small, resigned in a way no 4-year-old should be. But what if he leaves too? Lena looked up at Dante and saw him turn away, his shoulders tight. This was the real damage, she realized. Not just losing a mother, but the bone-deep fear that loss was inevitable, that everyone you loved would eventually disappear. She knew that feeling, had lived it herself as a child, watching her father gamble away their stability, her mother retreat into denial, the constant waiting for the other shoe to drop. Leo, look at me. She waited until he met her eyes. I can't promise that nothing bad will ever happen, but I can tell you that your dad loves you so much, and he's not going anywhere if he can help it. How do you know? Because I can see it. The way he looks at you, the way he brought you here, even though it was probably scary for both of you. That's not what people do when they're planning to leave. Leo was quiet for a moment. Then, were you and Daddy friends before? The question caught her off guard. Yeah, a long time ago. Why did you stop being friends? Sometimes people have to go separate ways. It doesn't mean they stop caring about each other. Did you leave too? The accusation in his voice was gentle, but unmistakable. Lena felt it like a knife. I did, but not because of anything you did. I didn't even know you existed back then. Do you leave everyone? No. Lena's throat was tight. No, I try really hard not to. Okay. Leo seemed satisfied with this answer. He went back to watching the ducks, and after a moment he leaned slightly against Lena's side. The trust in that small gesture nearly broke her. They stayed another hour, wandering through the zoo until Leo started yawning. The afternoon light was fading, and families were beginning to pack up and leave. We should probably go, Dante said finally. Before he falls asleep standing up, Leo rubbed his eyes. I'm not tired. Sure you're not. Dante lifted him easily, and the boy's head immediately drooped onto his shoulder. Say thank you to Lena. Thank you, Leo mumbled into Dante's jacket. Can we see the penguins again sometime? Lena's heart clenched. Maybe. That means no, Leo said with the brutal honesty of childhood. Adults always say maybe when they mean no. He's got you there, Dante said softly. They walked back to the parking lot in silence. Lena's car was in the opposite direction from Dante's, which was probably for the best. She needed distance, needed to process whatever had just happened. At the fork in the path, Dante stopped. Leo was half asleep in his arms, but Dante's eyes were wide awake and fixed on Lena. Can we do this again? He asked. Dante, not for me. For him. You saw how he was with you. He hasn't been that relaxed with anyone since... Dante's voice caught. Please, just think about it. Lena looked at Leo's sleeping face, so peaceful in a way she suspected was rare. Then she looked at Dante and saw the desperation there, the fear that she'd walk away and take this small bit of peace with her. She should say no, should protect herself and Mia and the life they'd built. But she kept thinking about Leo's question. Do you leave everyone? One more time, she heard herself say. But then I need to think about whether this is sustainable. That's all I'm asking. And Dante? This is about Leo, not about us. There is no us anymore. Something flickered in his expression, pain maybe, or resignation. I know. They separated then, heading to their cars. Lena sat in hers for a long time before starting the engine, trying to figure out what she'd just agreed to. Her phone buzzed. Maya. How'd it go? Lena stared at the message. How had it gone? She'd spent the afternoon with Dante's son, the child he'd had with another woman, and somehow it had felt natural, right even. Leo was sweet and broken and desperately in need of something Dante couldn't give him alone. But agreeing to help meant getting closer to Dante, meant risking the secret she'd kept for 4 years, meant potentially destroying the careful walls she'd built around her heart. Complicated, she finally texted back. Tell you when I get home. The second meeting happened 3 days later at the Museum of Science and Industry. Leo wanted to see the coal mine, and Dante had suggested Lena join them. She'd agreed before thinking it through, which was becoming a dangerous pattern. This time, Leo seemed almost eager to see her. He ran up when they met in the lobby, stopping just short of hugging her before remembering his shyness. "We're going underground," he announced. "Into the mine." "I know. Are you scared?" "A little. But Lena will be there, so it's okay." The trust in that statement made Lena's eyes burn. She glanced at Dante, who shrugged helplessly. "He's been talking about you non-stop," Dante said quietly. "Asked if you were going to be his new mom." Lena's blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "That you're our friend. That friends spend time together sometimes." "Dante, this is getting complicated." "I know, but look at him." Dante gestured to where Leo was practically bouncing with excitement. "He's happy. When's the last time I could say that?" They went through the museum, Leo chattering away about everything he saw. In the coal mine exhibit, he held Lena's hand in the darkness, squeezing tight when the recorded sounds of mining equipment echoed around them. "You okay?" Lena whispered. "Yeah. It's just loud." "We can leave if you want." "No, I want to be brave." Leo's grip tightened. "Like you said." After the museum, they got lunch at a diner nearby. Leo ordered chicken fingers and spent most of the meal building elaborate structures out of French fries while explaining the plot of his current favorite cartoon. And then the robot dragon saves the princess, but she doesn't want to be saved because she was actually trying to get captured so she could steal the bad guy's magic crystal and... "Breathe, buddy," Dante said, but he was smiling. Leo took a breath and continued his story. Lena found herself laughing at his dramatic hand gestures and the way he'd stop mid-sentence to act out the action scenes. "You'd like my..." Lena stopped herself just in time. She'd been about to say my daughter. "You'd like cartoons with dragons. I've seen a bunch of good ones." "Which ones?" Leo leaned forward eagerly. Lena listed a few of Mia's favorites, careful not to give away too much information. But it was hard, keeping that wall up. Hard not to tell Leo that her daughter was exactly his age, that they'd probably get along great, that they actually had more in common than he knew. After lunch, Leo crashed hard. Dante carried him back to the car, and Lena walked alongside them. "He's going to sleep for hours after this," Dante said. "I wore him out. We wore him out. Team effort." "About that." Dante stopped at her car. Leo was fully asleep now, drooling slightly on his father's shoulder. "I know you said this was just about Leo, and I respect that, but I need you to know, being around you again, it's..." "Don't." Lena cut him off. "Don't make this about us, Dante, please." "I'm not trying to, I'm just being honest." He shifted Leo's weight. "I spent 5 years trying to forget you. Tried to convince myself that what we had wasn't real, that it was just an affair that ran its course. But seeing you with my son, watching you be exactly who I remembered..." "Stop." Lena's voice was sharper than she intended. "I have a life, Dante, a good life, and I'm not going to blow it up for some fantasy of what we could have been." "Is it a fantasy, though? We were good together. We were a secret. We were stolen moments and lies and a relationship built on the fact that you were married to someone else." Lena forced herself to meet his eyes. "That's not a foundation. That's quicksand." Dante was quiet for a long moment. "You're right," he said finally. "I know you're right, but that doesn't change how I feel." "Then you need to deal with your feelings on your own time, because I'm here for Leo. That's it." She got in her car before he could respond, before the look in his eyes could undermine her resolve. In her rearview mirror, she watched him stand there for a moment before turning to his own car, Leo still sleeping against his shoulder. The third meeting, a week later, was supposed to be at a children's museum. But when Lana arrived, Dante looked frazzled in a way she'd never seen. "Leo's sick," he said by way of greeting. "Just a cold, but he's miserable and I'm at the end of my rope. I know this wasn't the plan, but..." "Where is he?" "The hotel. I have a suite. I know it's not appropriate for you to come there, but..." "Take me to him." 20 minutes later, Lena was in an expensive hotel suite on the Magnificent Mile. Leo curled up on the couch, wrapped in blankets and looking utterly pitiful. "Hey, buddy," she said softly, crouching beside him. "I heard you're not feeling great." "My throat hurts," Leo croaked, "and my nose won't stop running." "That's the worst. Are you drinking fluids?" Leo pointed to a mostly full glass of water. "Daddy keeps making me drink stuff." "That's because your dad's smart. Your body needs water to fight off the cold." Lena felt his forehead, warm, but not dangerously so. "Have you taken medicine?" "It tastes bad." "Most medicine does, but it helps, right?" "I guess." Dante hovered anxiously nearby. "I gave him children's acetaminophen 2 hours ago. The doctor said it's just a cold, should run its course in a few days. But he won't eat, Won't sleep, just keeps crying. Lena could see the exhaustion in Dante's face. When's the last time you slept? Last night, some. He kept waking up. Go take a nap. I've got this. Lena, you don't have to. Dante, go sleep. I've dealt with sick kids before. He looked like he wanted to argue, but another pathetic sniffle from Leo convinced him. 2 hours. I'll set an alarm. Take 3. You look like hell. After Dante disappeared into the bedroom, Lena turned her attention to Leo. Okay, tough guy. Let's see if we can make you a little more comfortable. She found the humidifier Dante had set up and moved it closer to the couch. Got Leo a fresh box of tissues and a bowl in case his stomach got upset. Then she settled on the other end of the couch with his feet in her lap. Want me to tell you a story? She asked. What kind? How about one about a brave knight who had to go on a quest while he had a terrible cold? Knights don't get colds. This one did, because he was so busy being brave that he forgot to wear his coat in the winter. Want to hear what happened? Leo nodded, burrowing deeper into his blankets. Lena made up the story as she went, something about a knight and a dragon and a magical soup that could cure any illness. It was silly and probably made no sense, but Leo listened with rapt attention, occasionally asking questions or adding his own details. Halfway through, his eyes started drooping. By the end, he was asleep. Lena sat there for a long time, watching him breathe. His face was flushed from the fever, his dark hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. He looked so small, so vulnerable. Nothing like the powerful, dangerous world his father came from. She heard a noise and turned to find Dante standing in the bedroom doorway, watching them. I thought you were sleeping, Lena said quietly. Couldn't, kept thinking about, he gestured vaguely, everything. Dante, I know. I know this is just about Leo. I know you have boundaries. He moved into the room, careful not to wake his son. But watching you with him, it's everything I used to imagine. When we were together, before everything fell apart. I'd think about what it would be like if we could actually build a life together. Have a family, be normal. We were never going to be normal. No, but we could have been happy. Dante sat in the chair across from her, his expression raw. I've given up a lot in my life, Lena. Made sacrifices for family, for duty, for a business I didn't even want. But losing you was the only one that actually broke me. You didn't lose me. You chose someone else. I chose wrong. And I've had 5 years to regret it. He leaned forward. I'm not asking you to forget what happened. I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I'm just asking, if there's any part of you that still feels what we had, give me a chance to prove I've changed. Lena looked down at Leo, still sleeping peacefully. What about him? What happens if we try this and it doesn't work? You want him to lose someone else? He's already attached to you. Whether we try or not, he's going to be hurt if you disappear. Then maybe I should disappear now, before it gets worse. Do you want to? That was the question Lena had been avoiding for weeks. Did she want to disappear? Every logical part of her brain screamed yes. This was dangerous, foolish, a recipe for disaster. She had Mia to think about, a secret that could destroy everything if it came out. But she kept thinking about Leo's smile when he saw her, the way he held her hand in the dark, the trust in his eyes when he called her brave. And underneath all of that, hidden but undeniable, was the part of her that still loved Dante, that had never stopped loving him, despite everything. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I want. Then let's figure it out together. Before Lena could respond, Leo stirred, whimpering in his sleep. She automatically reached out, brushing his hair back from his forehead, murmuring quiet reassurances. He settled immediately, turning toward her touch. When she looked up, Dante was watching them with an expression that made her chest ache. He trusts you, Dante said softly. More than he trusts anyone except me. Do you know how rare that is? He barely knows me. Kids have instincts. They know who's safe. Dante stood, moving to kneel beside the couch near Leo's head. I won't push you. I won't demand anything you're not ready to give. But please, Lena, don't run away again. Not yet. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to explain all the reasons this was impossible. But looking at Leo's sleeping face, feeling the weight of Dante's hope, she couldn't force the words out. I need time, she said finally, to think, to figure out what this even means. Take all the time you need. And we go slow, really slow, because I have more to protect than you know. Something flickered in Dante's expression, curiosity maybe, but he didn't push. Whatever you need. Lena stayed until Leo woke up an hour later, cranky and feverish. She helped Dante coax medicine into him, made toast he wouldn't eat, and finally got him to drink some broth. By the time she left, Leo was crying for her to stay, and Lena's heart was in shreds. "I'll come back tomorrow," she promised, and hated herself for meaning it. In her car, she called Maya. "I'm in trouble," Lena said when her sister answered. "What kind?" "The kind where I'm falling for him again, him and his kid." Maya was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" "I have no idea. You need to tell him about Mia, before this goes any further." "I know." "Lena." "I know, Maya, I know, but I don't know how. How do I tell him he has a daughter I've been hiding for 4 years? How do I explain why I never said anything?" "The truth. You start with the truth." But the truth felt like a grenade, and Lena didn't know how to pull the pin without destroying everything. Over the next 2 weeks, Lena saw Leo and Dante 6 more times. The visits had stopped being planned and started being spontaneous. A text asking if she was free for dinner, a call saying Leo had a nightmare and was asking for her, a morning invitation to the aquarium. Each time, Lena told herself it would be the last. Each time, she went anyway. Leo improved from his cold and went back to being curious and chatty. He started calling her by name without prompting, reaching for her hand automatically when they walked anywhere. He told her about his dreams, his fears, his elaborate fantasy about having a puppy someday. And Dante was trying so hard not to push, but Lena could feel his attention on her constantly. The way he'd find excuses to touch her hand, the lingering looks when he thought she wasn't watching, the careful questions about her life that never quite dug deep enough to uncover Mia. It couldn't last, Lena knew that. Eventually the truth would come out, or she'd have to walk away, or something would shatter the fragile peace they'd built. She just didn't expect it to happen the way it did. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they'd taken Leo to Navy Pier. He wanted to ride the Ferris wheel, and Dante had agreed despite his obvious discomfort with heights. Lena had laughed at his white knuckles and promised Leo they'd all be fine. They were standing in line when Lena's phone rang. "Maya." "I'm sorry," Lena said, stepping aside. "I need to take this." She answered while Dante and Leo stayed in line. "Hey, what's—" "Lena, don't panic." Maya's voice was tight with controlled calm, which meant Lena should absolutely panic. "Mia's fine, but we're at the emergency room." Lena's world tilted. What happened? She fell at the playground, hit her head. She was unconscious for maybe 20 seconds, and I brought her in to be safe. They're doing a CT scan now. "I'm coming." "Which hospital?" "Lurie Children's." "But Lena, she's okay. Alert, talking, just scared. The doctor said it's probably just a precaution." "I'm coming," Lena repeated, already moving toward the exit. 20 minutes. She hung up and nearly collided with Dante, who'd left the line with Leo in tow. "What's wrong?" Dante asked, reading her face immediately. "I have to go. Family emergency." Lena was already pulling out her keys. "I'm sorry, Is everyone okay?" "I don't know. I have to go." "Let me drive you. You're shaking." Lena realized he was right. Her hands were trembling so badly she could barely hold her phone. "No, I'll be fine. You have Leo." "Who's hurt?" Leo asked, his voice small with worry. "Is it bad?" Lena looked down at him and saw her own fear reflected back. She crouched down despite the urgency screaming at her to run. "Someone I care about got hurt, but they're going to be okay. I just need to go make sure." "You're coming back though, right?" The question broke her heart. "Yeah, buddy, I'm coming back." "Let us drive you," Dante said again. "You're in no state to be behind a wheel." Lena wanted to argue, but another wave of fear washed over her. Mia, her baby, unconscious. Okay, yes. Lurie Children's Hospital, can we go now?" They practically ran to Dante's car, Leo asking questions the whole way. Who was hurt? Was it Lena's sister? Did they need a doctor? Dante shushed him gently while navigating Chicago traffic with a skill that suggested he'd done it 1,000 times. 20 minutes felt like hours. Lena sat in the passenger seat, her leg bouncing, her fingers drumming against her thigh. She pulled out her phone 6 times to call Maya, then put it away without dialing. "She's going to be okay," Dante said quietly. "Kids are resilient." "You don't know that." "No, but panicking won't help anyone." He was right. Lena forced herself to breathe, to think logically. Maya had said Mia was alert and talking. That was good. That meant no serious brain injury. The CT was just a precaution. But Lena couldn't shake the image of her daughter unconscious, her baby hurt and scared and calling for her. They pulled up to the emergency entrance. Lena was out of the car before it fully stopped. "Thank you," she called back to Dante. I'll call you later." "Lena, wait." But she was already gone, running through the automatic doors into the hospital. She found the pediatric emergency department and gave Mia's name to the receptionist, who directed her to a room in the back. Maya met her in the hallway. "She's fine. The scan was clear, no concussion, no fractures. They're keeping her for observation for a few more hours, but the doctor said she can go home tonight." Lena sagged against the wall, relief making her knees weak. "Can I see her?" "Of course." Mia was sitting up in the hospital bed, a small bandage on her forehead and tear tracks on her cheeks. When she saw Lena, her face crumpled. "Mama!" Lena gathered her into her arms, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, feeling her solid weight. Alive. Safe. "Okay." "I'm here, baby. I'm here. You're okay." "I fell off the monkey bars. I was trying to go all the way across like the big kids, and I slipped." "I know. Aunt Maya told me." Lena pulled back to examine her daughter's face. "How do you feel?" "My head hurts, and I'm scared. The doctors are going to make sure you're all better. You were very brave." They sat together, Lena holding Mia, while Maya explained what the doctor had said. Nothing serious, just a mild bump that needed monitoring. Mia could go back to school on Monday if she felt up to it. Lena was so focused on her daughter that she didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. Didn't notice the shadow in the doorway until Leo's voice rang out, small and worried. "Lena, are you okay?" Lena's head snapped up. Dante stood in the doorway, Leo beside him, both of them staring into the room with expressions of concern. And just like that, her carefully constructed world fell apart. Because Dante wasn't looking at Lena anymore. He was staring at Mia, his face going pale, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to something that looked like devastation. Mia, for her part, stared back with wide, curious eyes. "Who's that, Mama?" Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't move. She watched Dante's eyes move from Mia's face to hers, watched him do the math that she'd been dreading for weeks. 4 years old. Dark hair. Dark eyes. The same mouth, the same stubborn chin. "Lena," Dante said, and his voice was barely a whisper. "Is she—" "I think you should leave," Lena said, her voice shaking. "Is she mine?" The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Maya stood up. "Dante, this isn't the time." "Is she mine?" Dante said again, louder this time, his control fracturing. "Tell me the truth. Is that my daughter?" Lena looked at Mia, who was staring between them with growing fear, then at Leo, who was clutching his father's hand with wide, confused eyes, then at Dante, whose entire world was clearly shattering in real time. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, she's yours." The silence in the hospital room was suffocating. Dante stood frozen in the doorway, his face drained of color. Leo clutched his father's hand, sensing the tension even if he didn't understand it. Mia pressed closer to Lena, her small body trembling. Maya had gone completely still, her eyes darting between Lena and Dante like she was watching a car crash in slow motion. "Mama, who is that man?" Mia's voice was small, frightened. Lena forced herself to focus on her daughter, brushing hair back from her face. "Just a friend, baby. It's okay." "He looks mad." "He's not mad at you." Lena's voice cracked. "He's just surprised." Dante finally moved, stepping into the room. Leo stayed glued to his side, his eyes huge. "How long have you known?" "Dante, not here. How long?" His voice was quiet but sharp as broken glass. "When did you find out?" Lena couldn't look at him. 3 days after our last fight, right before I left California." She heard him inhale sharply, watched his hands curl into fists at his sides. 5 years. You've known for 5 years and you never— Don't." Maya stepped forward, her voice hard. "Don't you dare come in here and make this about you. Look around. We're in a hospital. Mia just got hurt. Whatever you have to say can wait." "The hell it can." "Daddy, you're scaring me." Leo's voice was high and thin. "Why are you yelling?" Dante looked down at his son and seemed to remember where he was. The fury in his expression shifted to something more controlled, but no less devastating. "I'm sorry, buddy, I'm not—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "We need to leave." "But Lena's here." "I thought we were checking on her friend." "We're leaving now." The command in Dante's voice left no room for argument. Leo's face crumpled, tears welling up, but Dante was already pulling him toward the door. Wait. Lena stood, careful not to jostle Mia. Dante, please, can we just... He turned, and the look he gave her was like being struck. You kept my daughter from me for 5 years. What exactly do you want me to say to that? I want you to understand why... There is no why that makes this okay. His voice was shaking now, barely controlled rage mixed with something that sounded like grief. You were pregnant when you left. You knew, and you ran anyway. You let me spend 5 years not knowing I had another child. You chose Victoria. You chose to give her a baby, to stay in your marriage. What was I supposed to do, Dante? Come crawling back begging to be part of your perfect little family arrangement? You were supposed to tell me I had a daughter. Mama? Mia was crying now, overwhelmed by the shouting and the strangers and her own pain. I want to go home. Lena gathered her close, fighting her own tears. I know, baby. Soon. Maya moved between Lena and Dante. You need to leave. Now, before I call security. Dante looked like he wanted to argue, wanted to keep fighting, but Leo was crying too, confused and scared, and some part of Dante's paternal instinct kicked in. He scooped his son up, pressing Leo's face against his shoulder. This isn't over, he said to Lena. I know. He left without another word, Leo's sobs echoing down the hallway. The second they were gone, Lena collapsed into the chair beside Mia's bed. Her whole body was shaking, adrenaline and fear and delayed shock all hitting at once. What just happened? Mia asked, her voice trembling. Why was that man so mad? Lena had no idea how to answer that. How to explain to her 4-year-old daughter that her father, the father who'd never known she existed, had just discovered her in the worst possible way. It's complicated, sweetheart. Grown-up stuff. Is he going to hurt us? No, baby. He would never hurt you. But he was yelling. Because he was upset. But not at you. Never at you. Mia seemed to accept this, or at least was too tired to push further. She leaned against Lena, her eyelids drooping despite the fluorescent hospital lights. Maya sat down heavily in the other chair. Well, that went about as badly as it possibly could have. He knows now. It's done. And what happens next? Lena closed her eyes. I have no idea. They kept Mia for observation until evening. By the time Lena got her home and settled into bed, it was nearly 9. Mia fell asleep immediately, exhausted from the day's trauma. Lena sat beside her, watching her breathe, trying to process everything that had happened. Her phone had been buzzing nonstop for hours. Texts from Dante that she hadn't read, voicemails she'd deleted without listening to. She knew she'd have to deal with him eventually, but right now she just needed to breathe. Around 10, there was a knock on her apartment door. Lena looked through the peephole and her stomach dropped. Dante stood in the hallway, alone this time. He looked wrecked, tie loosened, hair disheveled, his expression hollow. Lena considered not answering, but he'd just keep coming back, keep pushing until they had this conversation. Better to get it over with. She opened the door but didn't invite him in. Leo? Asleep at the hotel. I have someone watching him. Dante's voice was rough, like he'd been shouting or crying or both. Can we talk? I don't know what there is to say. Are you serious right now? Lena, I just found out I have a daughter. There's a lot to say. Keep your voice down. Mia's asleep. Mia. He said the name like he was testing it out. That's her name? Yes. After anyone? No, I just liked it. Dante nodded slowly, processing this. Can I come in? Please. I'm not here to fight. I just need to understand. Lena hesitated, then stepped back. 5 minutes, and quiet. He followed her inside, his eyes immediately scanning the small apartment. Taking in the toys scattered across the floor, the crayon drawings stuck to the refrigerator, the evidence of the life Lena had built without him. She looks just like you, he said finally. She has your eyes. Your chin. I can't believe I didn't see it before. When you were at the zoo with Leo, at the museum. He stopped, his jaw working. You sat there and watched me with my son while you had our daughter hidden away. How could you do that? You think this was easy for me? Watching you with Leo, knowing Mia existed and I couldn't tell you? It was torture, Dante, every single time. Then why didn't you say something? Because I was terrified. The words burst out of her before she could stop them. Terrified of what you'd do, what you'd try to take from me. You're powerful, connected. What if you decided you wanted custody? What if you thought Mia would be better off in your world with your money and your resources? I couldn't risk it. Dante stared at her like she'd slapped him. You really think I would try to take her from you? I don't know what you'd do. I didn't know 5 years ago, and I don't know now. I would never... His voice broke. She's my daughter, Lena. Our daughter. Do you really think so little of me that you believe I'd rip her away from her mother? Lena sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. I don't know what I think anymore. 5 years ago, you chose Victoria. You chose duty and family expectations and a life I could never be part of. So I chose Mia. I chose to give her a safe, stable life away from all the chaos that came with being connected to you. You didn't give me a choice. You just decided I didn't deserve to know. You're right, I did decide that, because the alternative was coming back and begging for scraps of your attention while you played house with your wife and your legitimate son. I couldn't do that. I couldn't raise our daughter in the shadows. Dante sat down in the chair across from her, his head in his hands. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Lena could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen, the distant sound of traffic from the street below. I loved you, Dante said finally, his voice muffled. I know you don't believe that, but I did. I loved you more than I'd ever loved anyone. And when you left, it destroyed me. I spent 2 years trying to find you, trying to figure out where you'd gone, and all that time you were pregnant with my child. I know. Do you? Do you understand what you took from me? I missed everything. Her birth, her first steps, her first words. 4 years of my daughter's life that I can never get back. You had Leo. You were there for all of his firsts. That's not the same, and you know it. Dante looked up, and Lena was shocked to see tears on his face. Leo's mother died, Lena. He lost her before he was old enough to remember her. But Mia had you, alive and well, and I wasn't there. She doesn't even know who I am. The pain in his voice cracked something in Lena's chest. I know. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry you missed those things. Are you? Because it seems like this worked out perfectly for you. You got to raise her on your own terms. No messy co-parenting. No dealing with my complicated life. You think this was perfect for me? Lena's voice rose despite her effort to stay calm. I was a single mother working full-time while finishing my degree. I had no money, no support, except Maya. I gave birth alone, Dante. I did every night feeding, every diaper change, every doctor's appointment by myself. So don't you dare suggest this was easy or perfect. You chose that. You could have told me, and you would have what? Left Victoria while she was pregnant, abandoned Leo, split your time between two families? There was no good solution, Dante. Just different versions of impossible. He was quiet for a long moment. I would have tried. I would have found a way. Maybe, but I couldn't take that risk. Not with my daughter's well-being. Our daughter. Yes, our daughter. Who doesn't know you exist and is sleeping 20 feet away after a traumatic day. So what happens now, Dante? What do you want from me? I want to know her. I want to be her father. Lena's heart clenched. She has a life, a routine, friends at preschool, activities. You can't just walk in and upend everything. I'm not trying to upend anything. But I have rights, Lena. Legal rights as her father. The threat was gentle, but unmistakable. Lena felt ice slide down her spine. Don't do this. Don't make this a legal battle. I don't want to, but I need you to work with me here. He stopped, gathering himself. I need to be part of her life. However we make that work. She doesn't even know who you are. How am I supposed to explain this to her? Hi, sweetie. Remember that man who was yelling in the hospital? That's your dad. Then we figure it out, together. Like we should have done from the beginning. Lena wanted to argue, to push back against the presumption in his voice. But the truth was, she was tired. Tired of hiding, tired of carrying the secret alone. And somewhere beneath the fear and resentment, she felt a flicker of relief. The truth was out. She didn't have to pretend anymore. Slow, she said finally. If we do this, we go slow. You don't get to just show up and be dad overnight. She needs time to adjust. I can do slow. And you have to think about Leo. How is he going to feel about this? He's been getting used to the idea of you having a friend. Now he finds out you have another kid? Dante winced. I know. I have to talk to him. Explain somehow. Good luck with that. They sat in uncomfortable silence. Lena could feel the weight of everything unsaid between them. 5 years of hurt and anger and unresolved feelings. For what it's worth, Dante said quietly, I understand why you ran. I don't agree with the choices you made, but I understand them. I put you in an impossible position, and you did what you thought was best for your child. Our child. Lena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. But we can't change the past. We can only move forward. He stood, moving toward the door. I'm going to give you some space tonight, but tomorrow, I want to see her. Properly. Not in a hospital room with everyone yelling. Dante, please, Lena. I'm asking, not demanding. Let me start getting to know my daughter. The vulnerability in his voice undid her. Okay. Tomorrow afternoon. We can go to the park or something. Neutral ground. Thank you. He paused at the door. Is she okay? From the fall? She will be. No concussion, just bruised and scared. Good. That's good. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but instead he just left, closing the door quietly behind him. Lena sat in the silence of her apartment, trying to process what had just happened. Her secret was out. Dante knew about Mia, and instead of the disaster she'd always feared, they'd actually managed to have a semi-rational conversation. She checked on Mia, who was still sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the fact that her entire world was about to change. I'm sorry, baby, Lena whispered, brushing a kiss against her daughter's forehead. I tried to protect you. I hope someday you'll understand. The next day, Lena spent the morning trying to explain the situation to Mia in terms a 4-year-old could understand. Remember the man from the hospital? She started carefully. Mia looked up from her cereal. The mad one? He wasn't really mad, just surprised. His name is Dante, and he's... Lena took a breath. He's your father. Mia's spoon clattered into her bowl. My father? But I don't have a father. Everyone has a father, sweetie. You just haven't met yours until now. Why not? How to explain this? Because he lived far away, and we lost touch for a while. But now he's here, and he wants to get to know you. Mia processed this with the serious expression she got when trying to understand grown-up concepts. Does he have to be my father if I don't want him to? The question broke Lena's heart. It's not about having to, baby. He is your father. That's just a fact. But you don't have to call him dad if you don't want to, and you don't have to love him right away. Those things take time. Does he love me? I think he wants to. He just needs to get to know you first. Like you got to know Leo? Lena froze. What do you mean? Aunt Maya told me you've been spending time with a little boy named Leo. Is that Dante's other kid? Maya was going to get an earful later. Yes. Leo is Dante's son. He's 4, like you. Mia's eyes went wide. I have a brother? Half-brother, technically. You have the same dad, but different moms. Where's his mom? She died, honey, before Leo was old enough to remember her. Mia was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. That's sad. It is. Leo's had a hard time. Is that why you were helping him? Because he was sad? Yes, that's why. Okay. Mia went back to her cereal like this was all perfectly normal. Can I meet him? My brother? Lena hadn't expected that. Maybe, if you want to, after you get to know Dante a little. Okay. It was almost anticlimactic how easily Mia accepted the news, but then 4-year-olds had a remarkable ability to roll with changes that would devastate adults. They met Dante at a small park near Lena's apartment. He was already there when they arrived, sitting on a bench and looking nervous in a way Lena had never seen him. Hi, he said, standing as they approached. His eyes were fixed on Mia with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. Mia pressed against Lena's leg, suddenly shy. Hi, Lena said. Mia, this is Dante. Dante, this is Mia. Hello, Mia. Dante's voice was gentle, careful. It's nice to meet you. Properly, I mean. Mia stared at him silently. She's a little shy, Lena explained. Give her time. Of course. Dante seemed at a loss for what to do with his hands. I wasn't sure what you liked, but I brought this. He held out a stuffed penguin. Mia's eyes lit up. A penguin? Like at the zoo? Yes, exactly like at the zoo. Dante smiled and Lena saw some of his tension ease. Do you like penguins? They're my favorite. Well, one of my favorites. I also like elephants and dolphins and... That's a lot of favorites, Dante said, crouching down to her level. I like penguins too. Mama, can I go on the swings? Mia asked, already clutching the penguin. Sure, baby. I'll be right here watching. Mia ran off and Lena sat down on the bench, Dante joined her, his eyes never leaving their daughter. "She's beautiful," he said quietly. "She is. She has your smile, the way she lit up about the penguin. That was all you." Lena didn't know what to say to that. They watched Mia swing, her laughter carrying across the playground. "How did you know about the penguins?" Lena asked. "Leo mentioned them. Said you guys saw them at the zoo, that they were his favorite." Dante glanced at her. "I figured if Leo liked them, maybe Mia would too. Siblings usually have some things in common." "You've been thinking about them as siblings, haven't you?" Lena had, actually, but admitting it felt like acknowledging too much. "It's complicated. Everything with us is complicated." Dante leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I talked to Leo this morning. Tried to explain that I have another child, that I didn't know about her until now." "How did he take it?" "He asked if I was going to leave him for her." Lena's heart clenched. "What did you say?" "That I would never leave him, that having Mia doesn't mean I love him less, that families can grow and there's enough love for everyone." Dante's voice was rough. "I'm not sure he believed me. He's been abandoned before, by his mother, even if it wasn't her choice. Of course he's scared. I know, but I don't know how to fix it." They sat in silence, watching Mia move from the swings to the slide. She waved at them from the top, and they both waved back. "She's fearless," Dante observed, "going down head first. You should see her on the monkey bars. That's how she got hurt yesterday." "Tell me about her." "Everything I've missed." So Lena did. She told him about Mia's birth, the complications that had scared her half to death, about the sleepless first year, the colic that had lasted months, about Mia's first word, mama, and her first steps taken in Maya's living room at 11 months, about her stubborn refusal to potty train until she was 3.5, and how she still sometimes had accidents when she was too focused on playing. She told him about Mia's obsession with dinosaurs that had lasted 6 months, and her current obsession with anything sparkly, about how she hated carrots but loved broccoli, how she could recite entire books from memory, how she had nightmares about thunderstorms and needed 3 different stuffed animals to sleep. Dante listened to all of it, his expression cycling through grief and wonder and regret. When Lena finally ran out of stories, he was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you," he said finally, "for telling me. You deserve to know. I deserve to be there." Lena didn't have a response to that. He was right, and they both knew it. Mia ran back over, breathless and flushed. "Did you see me? I went down the big slide." "I saw," Dante said. "You were very brave." "I'm brave lots of times. Mama says being brave means doing things even when you're scared." "Your mama's smart." Mia studied him seriously. "Are you really my father?" Dante glanced at Lena, who nodded encouragement. "Yes, I am." "Okay, do you want to come push me on the swings? Mama's arms get tired." Something in Dante's expression cracked. "I would love to." Lena watched them walk back to the swings together, Mia chattering away about proper pushing technique. Dante listened like she was explaining nuclear physics, nodding seriously at her instructions. When he started pushing her, careful and gentle, Mia's laughter rang out across the playground. And Dante was smiling, really smiling, in a way Lena hadn't seen in 5 years. Her phone buzzed, a text from Maya. "How's it going?" "Better than expected," Lena typed back. "He's good with her. And how are you doing?" Lena looked at Dante and Mia, at the careful way he was trying to connect with their daughter, at the way Mia was slowly warming up to him. "I don't know. Ask me again in a week." They stayed at the park for 2 hours. Dante played with Mia, tentative at first, then with growing confidence as she opened up to him. They went on the slide together, built a castle in the sandbox, and had an elaborate pretend tea party on a bench. By the time they were ready to leave, Mia was holding Dante's hand without prompting. "Can we do this again?" she asked, looking up at him. "I would really like that," Dante said. "If it's okay with your mom." Mia turned to Lena. "Is it okay, Mama?" Lena looked at Dante over their daughter's head, saw the hope there, the fragile beginning of something that could either heal them or destroy them all over again. "Yes," she said. "It's okay." Over the next 2 weeks, they established a routine. Dante would come over 3 afternoons a week to spend time with Mia. Sometimes they went to the park, sometimes the library, once to a children's museum. Lena always stayed with them, both for Mia's comfort and because she didn't fully trust leaving them alone yet. She watched Dante learn how to be Mia's father in real time, watched him figure out that she didn't like her sandwich crusts, that she needed 10 minutes warning before transitions, that she was terrified of automatic hand dryers in public bathrooms. He made mistakes, pushed too hard to connect sometimes, or got frustrated when she wouldn't listen. But he was trying, genuinely trying, and Mia was responding. "Tell me about Leo," Mia said one afternoon while they were coloring at Lena's kitchen table. Dante looked up from the picture he was working on. "What do you want to know?" "Is he nice?" "Very nice. A little shy, like you." "I'm not shy," Mia protested. "You were when we first met." "That's different. I didn't know you." She selected a purple crayon. "Does he know about me?" "He does. I told him you're his sister." "What did he say?" Dante and Lena exchanged glances. Leo had not taken the news well. He'd cried, insisted it wasn't true, and refused to talk about Mia for 3 days. "He was surprised," Dante said carefully. "Like I was, but he's getting used to the idea." "Can I meet him?" "Do you want to?" Mia nodded enthusiastically. "I've never had a brother before." Lena's heart squeezed. "Maybe soon, baby. Let's give Leo a little more time to adjust." But that night, after Mia was in bed, Dante brought it up again. "She wants to meet him, and honestly, I think it would be good for both of them." "Leo's still struggling with this. You said so yourself." "I know, but keeping them separate isn't helping. Maybe if they actually meet, if Leo sees that Mia isn't a threat." "She's 4, Dante. She couldn't be a threat if she tried." "You know what I mean? He's scared I'm going to love her more, spend all my time with her. If he meets her, sees that she's just a little kid like him, maybe it'll help." Lena wanted to say no, wanted to keep Mia protected from potential rejection or hurt. But Dante had a point. The longer they waited, the bigger deal it would become. "Okay," she said finally, "but controlled environment, short visit, and if it goes badly, we stop immediately." Agreed. They planned it for the following Saturday. A casual lunch at a family restaurant with both kids, both parents. Low pressure, public, easy to escape if needed. Lena was a nervous wreck the entire morning. She changed Mia's outfit 3 times, rehearsed what to say, and nearly canceled twice. "It'll be fine," Maya said over the phone. "You're overthinking this." "I'm not overthinking. I'm appropriately anxious about my daughter meeting her half-brother who may or may not hate her for existing." "He's 4. He doesn't hate anyone." "You didn't hear what Dante said? Leo's been having nightmares acting out. This is a big deal for him. And for Mia, which is why you need to stop panicking and just let it happen." Lena took a deep breath. "You're right. Okay. We're doing this." They met at a restaurant that catered to families, loud enough that kid noise wouldn't matter, with crayons and a play area in the back. Dante was already there with Leo when they arrived. Leo looked smaller than Lena remembered, more fragile. He was pressed against Dante's side, his eyes huge and uncertain. Mia, in contrast, bounded up to them with her usual enthusiasm. "Hi, are you Leo? I'm Mia. I'm your sister." Leo stared at her, then looked up at Dante. "She's loud." "I'm not loud," Mia protested. "I'm excited. There's a difference." Dante bit back a smile. "Leo, can you say hello to Mia?" "Hello," Leo mumbled, not making eye contact. "Do you want to sit together?" Mia asked, already climbing into a chair. "Mama says we can color while we wait for food. Do you like to color?" "I guess. I'm really good at coloring. I stay in the lines mostly. Sometimes I go outside on purpose, though, for effect." "Do you know what effect means?" Leo shook his head. "It means on purpose to make it look cool. Like if I'm coloring a sun, I might make the rays go outside the lines for effect. See?" She demonstrated on the kids' menu the waitress had brought. Leo watched, his expression slowly shifting from wary to curious. "That's actually pretty cool," he admitted. "I know. Want to try?" They bent over their menus, coloring with intense concentration. Lena met Dante's eyes across the table and saw her own relief reflected there. Lunch progressed better than expected. The kids talked about their favorite cartoons. Turned out they liked some of the same shows. Mia told Leo about her preschool, and he told her about the hotel pool he wasn't allowed to go in alone. They compared injuries. Mia's bandaged forehead versus Leo's scraped knee from last week. "You fell off monkey bars?" Leo asked, eyes wide. "Yeah, I was trying to go all the way across." "I can't do that yet. I'm too scared." "Me too now, but I'm going to try again when my head stops hurting." "That's brave," Mia grinned. "I know." After lunch, they moved to the play area. The kids ran off to the slides and Lena and Dante sat at a nearby table watching them. "This is going better than I thought," Lena said. Much better. Dante was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in weeks. Look at them. Mia and Leo were at the top of the slide, deep in conversation about something. Then Mia went down head first, laughing, and Leo followed, feet first, but still braver than usual. She's good for him, Dante observed. He's always so serious, so scared of everything. But she makes him want to try. He's good for her too. She needs someone to talk to besides adults. They watched the kids play, gradually relaxing as it became clear this wasn't going to be a disaster. Eventually, Mia and Leo came running back over. Can Leo come to our house? Mia asked, breathlessly. I want to show him my dinosaurs. Lena glanced at Dante. I don't know, honey. Maybe another time. Please, Mama. Please, please, please. I want to see the dinosaurs, Leo added quietly, looking at his father. Dante raised an eyebrow at Lena. If it's okay with you? It was happening too fast. But both kids were looking at her with such hope that Lena couldn't bring herself to say no. Okay, for a little while. The kids cheered and ran back to play. Dante leaned closer to Lena, his voice low. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive them both being in my apartment. I have a feeling they're going to be trouble together. Absolutely. But maybe the good kind. At Lena's apartment, the kids immediately disappeared into Mia's room. Lena could hear them chattering, Mia showing Leo her collection of plastic dinosaurs, and explaining the difference between a T-Rex and an Allosaurus. Dante stood in the living room looking slightly lost. Coffee? Lena offered. Please. She made coffee while he examined the photos on her refrigerator. Mia at every age, her life documented in snapshots he'd never seen. This one. He pointed to a picture of newborn Mia, red-faced and screaming. When was this? About an hour after she was born. She was not happy about being outside the womb. She was so small. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, perfect despite coming early. Dante stared at the photo for a long moment. I wish I'd been there. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what it feels like to have missed all of this? Lena handed him a mug. I understand it hurts. I understand you're angry about it. But Dante, I can't change the past. Neither can you. We can only figure out how to move forward. I'm trying, but every time I see evidence of what I missed, a crash from Mia's room followed by giggling interrupted him. Should we check on them? Dante asked. Probably. They found the kids surrounded by scattered dinosaurs, building what appeared to be an elaborate fortress out of blocks and blankets. We're making a dinosaur kingdom, Mia explained. Leo's the king and I'm the queen, and all the dinosaurs are our subjects. I see. Carry on, your majesties. Back in the living room, Dante shook his head. I can't believe how well they're getting along. Kids are resilient. They don't carry the same baggage we do. Lucky them. They sat on the couch, an awkward distance between them. The sounds of the kids playing drifted from the bedroom. Laughter, chatter, the occasional mock roar of a dinosaur. Leo's therapist said something interesting last week, Dante said quietly. She said he's been looking for a sibling, someone to share the weight of being my kid, of having lost his mother. She said he probably needs that more than we realized. And now he has a sister. Yeah, a sister I didn't tell him about. A whole other family I kept hidden. You didn't keep us hidden. You didn't know we existed. But now that I do, Dante turned to face her. I want them to know each other, really know each other. I want them to have a relationship. They're building one right now. Can you hear them? More giggling from the bedroom, followed by Leo's voice saying something that made Mia shriek with laughter. I want more than this, Dante said. More than scheduled visits and careful supervised time. I want... What? What do you want, Dante? He looked at her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. I want my family together, both my kids under one roof. I want normal birthday parties and holidays, and the kind of stability neither of them has right now. That's not realistic. We live in different places, have different lives, so we change that. I move to Chicago permanently, or you come back to California, or we find somewhere new together. Dante, stop. Lena stood, needing distance. You can't just rearrange everyone's lives because it's convenient for you. It's not about convenience, it's about doing what's best for Leo and Mia. What's best for Mia is the stable life she already has, the routine, the familiar places, the people who've been there for her from the beginning. I'm her father. I should have been there from the beginning. But you weren't. The words came out sharper than Lena intended. And I'm sorry about that, I really am. But I can't just uproot her entire life to make up for decisions I made 5 years ago. Dante stood too, moving closer. What if it's not about making up for anything? What if it's about building something new, something better than what either of us had before? We tried that once. It didn't work. We never really tried. We had an affair that was doomed from the start because I was too much of a coward to leave my marriage. He was close enough now that Lena could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. But I'm not married anymore. There's no Victoria, no arrangements, nothing keeping us apart except the walls you've built. Those walls kept me safe, kept Mia safe. From what? From me? I'm not the enemy here, Lena. You're not the enemy, but you're not the solution either. How do you know if you won't even try? Before Lena could respond, Mia appeared in the doorway. Mama, can Leo stay for dinner? Lena stepped back from Dante, putting space between them. I don't know, honey. It's getting late. Please? We want to finish our kingdom. Leo appeared behind Mia. Please, Daddy. Can we stay? Dante looked at Lena, and in his eyes she saw all the things they weren't saying. The pull between them that had never really faded. The possibility of something neither of them was brave enough to name. Okay, she said finally. You can stay for dinner. Dinner that night was chaos in the best possible way. Lena made pasta while the kids set the table, which meant Mia and Leo argued over who got to put out the forks and ended up dropping half of them on the floor. Dante helped clean up the mess, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Lena realized this felt dangerously close to normal. Like a family having dinner together, not a fractured group of people trying to navigate an impossible situation. After they ate, the kids convinced them to watch a movie. Leo fell asleep halfway through, curled up against Dante's side. Mia made it to the end, but was yawning hard by the credits. I should get him back to the hotel, Dante said, quietly, carefully extracting himself from under Leo's sleeping weight. Yeah, and Mia needs to get to bed. They moved through the motions of gathering Leo's things, Dante lifting his son with practiced ease. At the door, he paused. Today was good, he said. It was. Can we do it again, not just me and Mia, all of us together? Lena looked at him holding Leo, thought about the way both kids had laughed together, the way they'd built their dinosaur kingdom like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. Yeah, we can do it again. Something shifted in Dante's expression, relief mixed with hope. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. After they left, Lena got Mia ready for bed. Her daughter was practically asleep on her feet, mumbling about Leo and dinosaurs and how she wished she had a brother all the time, not just for visits. Did you have fun today? Lena asked, tucking her in. Leo's nice and funny. He makes different voices for all the dinosaurs. Mia yawned. Mama, is Dante going to be around a lot now? Would you like that? I think so. He's nice too, and he knows about penguins. Lena smiled despite the tightness in her chest. Get some sleep, baby. Mama, do you think... Another yawn interrupted her. Do you think we could all live together sometime, like a real family? The question hit Lena like a physical blow. I don't know, sweetheart. That's complicated. Grown-ups always say that when they mean probably not. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just didn't notice. Mia's eyes were already closing. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. Lena sat on the edge of the bed long after Mia fell asleep, trying to quiet the storm of emotions in her chest. Her daughter wanted a family, wanted her father around, wanted her brother, wanted the kind of stability that came from everyone being together. And the terrifying part was that Lena wanted it too. She'd spent 5 years convincing herself she was fine alone, that she didn't need Dante or anyone else. But watching him with both kids today, seeing the way he was trying so hard to be a good father, the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, it had awakened something she'd thought was dead. Her phone buzzed, a text from Dante. Thank you for today. Leo hasn't stopped talking about Mia. I think he's going to sleep with one of her dinosaurs. Lena smiled. Which one? The purple T-Rex. Apparently it's the fiercest one. Of course it is. She has strong opinions about dinosaur hierarchy. A pause. Then, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever think about what might have happened if things had been different? If I'd made better choices 5 years ago? Lena stared at the message for a long time before responding. All the time. But we can't change the past. No. But we can change the future if we're brave enough. She didn't respond to that. Didn't know how to respond to the implication in his words. Another text. I know I'm pushing too hard. I'll back off. But I needed you to know. I'm not giving up on us. On any of us. There is no us, Dante. There's co-parenting. There's being civil for the kids. But that's it, if that's what you need to tell yourself. Good night, Lena. She set her phone down, frustrated and confused and wanting things she had no business wanting. Over the next month, they fell into a new rhythm. Dante and Leo had moved out of the hotel into a furnished apartment in Lena's neighborhood, close enough for easy visits, but not so close that she felt suffocated. The kids saw each other several times a week, sometimes with both parents present, sometimes just with Dante, or just with Lena. It was working, mostly. The kids were bonding in a way that made Lena's heart swell. They'd invented elaborate games involving dinosaurs and dragons, and complex rules only they understood. They had inside jokes, their own language. Leo was coming out of his shell, smiling more, having fewer nightmares. Mia loved having someone to play with who wasn't an adult. But the situation between Lena and Dante was getting more complicated by the day. He'd find reasons to linger after dropping Leo off. Would text her about things that had nothing to do with the kids. An article he thought she'd find interesting, a restaurant he wanted to try, a memory from their time together in California. She tried to maintain boundaries, tried to keep things focused on co-parenting, but it was getting harder to ignore the pull between them. You're playing with fire, Maya warned one evening, after Lena admitted that Dante had stayed for dinner again, and they'd ended up talking until midnight while the kids slept. We're just talking. You're doing more than talking. You're falling for him again. I never stopped falling for him. That's the problem. Maya set down her wine glass. Then what are you waiting for? He's made it clear he wants to try again. The kids get along. What's holding you back? Fear, logic, self-preservation. Lena counted on her fingers. The fact that we tried this once and it ended with me pregnant and alone in a different state. That was different. He was married then. He's not anymore. But he still comes from a world I don't understand. The business, the connections, the danger that comes with all of it. What if I let him in and something happens? What if his past catches up with him and the kids get caught in the crossfire? What if none of that happens? What if you're just making excuses because you're scared of being happy? Lena didn't have an answer for that. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday in November. Lena had been at work when she got a call from Mia's preschool. There'd been an incident. Another child had pushed Mia during an argument, and she'd hit her head on a table. Nothing serious, but there was blood and the school needed her to come immediately. Lena's boss was in a meeting. She couldn't reach Maya. In desperation, she called Dante. He arrived at the preschool before she did, somehow navigating Chicago traffic faster than should have been possible. When Lena burst into the nurse's office, he was sitting with Mia on his lap, pressing an ice pack to her forehead while she cried into his shirt. Hey, baby, Mama's here, Lena said, rushing over. Mama! Mia reached for her, and Lena gathered her close, examining the small cut above her eyebrow. It had already stopped bleeding, but there'd be a bruise. What happened? Lena asked the teacher who'd followed her in. Jason took her crayon. She took it back. He pushed her, and she fell into the table. Is Jason okay? Dante asked, his voice carefully controlled. He's fine. Shaken up. Both children will need to have a conversation about using our words instead of our hands. After they'd filled out the incident report and gotten Mia cleaned up, Dante drove them home. Lena sat in the back with Mia, holding her hand while she recounted the story of Jason and the stolen crayon in dramatic detail. He said my purple was stupid, Mia said indignantly. But purple is the best color. Leo agrees with me. Purple is excellent, Dante said from the front seat. Jason clearly has no taste. That got a watery giggle from Mia. At the apartment, Dante carried Mia inside. She was perfectly capable of walking, but was milking the injury for all the attention she could get. He settled her on the couch with her stuffed penguin and a juice box. Thank you, Lena said quietly, for coming so fast. I couldn't... My boss was, you don't have to explain. She needed someone and I was available. That's what parents do. Parents. The words sat between them, loaded with meaning. Dante was Mia's parent now, not just in biology, but in practice. He showed up. He cared. He dropped everything when she needed him. I should make her something to eat, Lena said, needing to move, to do something with her hands. Let me. You've had a scare. Dante was already heading to the kitchen. Grilled cheese, okay? Perfect. Lena sat with Mia, who was already perking up now that the drama had passed. By the time Dante brought out sandwiches, she was chattering about the dinosaur book she wanted him to read to her. They ate lunch, read the book, twice, because Mia insisted, and then she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the morning's excitement. Dante and Lena moved to the kitchen, speaking in low voices so they wouldn't wake her. "She's okay," Dante said, reading Lena's expression. Kids bounce back fast. "I know, but it scared me. When the school called, Lena's voice broke. "I couldn't get there fast enough." "I know the feeling." Dante reached across the counter, his hand covering hers. "Every time Leo gets hurt or sick or scared, I feel like my heart's being ripped out. It doesn't get easier." "How do you handle it? The constant fear that something might happen to them?" "I don't. I just try to be present when they need me. Be there when it counts." He squeezed her hand. "Like today. We were both there for her. Together." Lena looked at their joined hands, felt the warmth of his touch spreading through her. "We make a good team sometimes. We could make a good team all the time if you'd let us try." "Dante, I love you, Lena. I never stopped loving you. And I know you feel something too. I can see it in the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention. So why are we still pretending?" "Because pretending is safer. Because admitting this is real means I could lose it again. Or it means you could have everything you've been too scared to ask for." Dante moved around the counter, standing close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. For honest. For us to try and build something together instead of dancing around each other while we co-parent. What if it doesn't work? What if it does?" Lena looked up at him, saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the hope mixed with fear. He was taking a risk too, putting himself out there despite everything that had gone wrong before. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. So am I." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. "But I'm more scared of waking up 5 years from now and realizing I let you slip away twice." The kids are already attached to both of us. They're already thinking of us as a unit. We're not protecting them by staying apart, Lena. We're just teaching them that love isn't worth the risk. That's not fair. None of this is fair, but it's real. And it's ours if we want it. Lena closed her eyes, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. "I don't know how to do this. How to trust this." "One day at a time, one choice at a time, starting with this one." Dante's voice was soft, gentle. "Let me in, Lena. Let me love you the way I should have 5 years ago. No secrets, no half measures, just us, figuring it out together." When Lena opened her eyes, Dante was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered, like he'd wait forever if that's what she needed. She thought about Mia's question. "Do you think we could all live together sometime, like a real family?" She thought about Leo asking if his dad was going to leave him, about both kids building their dinosaur kingdom, creating a world where they belonged together. She thought about 5 years of being alone, of convincing herself she was fine, of pretending she didn't miss Dante with every breath. "Okay," she whispered. Dante went still. "Okay? Let's try. But slow, Dante, really slow. Because if this goes wrong, she didn't get to finish." Dante kissed her, soft and desperate and full of 5 years of longing. Lena kissed him back, letting herself fall into it, into him, into the terrifying possibility that maybe this time things could be different. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. "I promise you," Dante said, his forehead pressed against hers. "I won't waste this chance. I won't take you for granted. I'll show up every day and prove that I'm worth the risk." "You already have been. That's why I'm so scared." He laughed, the sound watery but genuine. "We're a mess." "Yeah, but we're a mess together." They stood in her kitchen, holding each other, while Mia slept on the couch and rain drummed against the windows. It wasn't a perfect moment. There was too much history, too much hurt for perfect. But it was real. And right now, that was enough. The next few months were an exercise in patience and learning to trust. Dante kept his promise to take things slow, but he also made his intentions clear. He showed up for Mia's preschool events, helped with bedtime routines, learned how to braid her hair after watching 3 YouTube tutorials. He included Lena in Leo's life too, asking her opinion on his school choices, inviting her to his therapy sessions when the counselor suggested family participation. They went on actual dates, awkward at first, both of them hyper-aware of how much was riding on this working. But gradually, they found their rhythm again. Dinner conversations that lasted hours, walks through the city while the kids were at Maya's, stolen kisses when no one was watching, Leo struggled initially with the change. He'd gotten used to having Lena's attention when she was around, and sharing her with Mia was one thing, but watching his father fall in love was another. He acted out, tested boundaries, had a few spectacular tantrums. He's scared, the therapist explained. His mother left him, even though it wasn't her choice. Now he's watching his father build something new, and he's terrified of where he fits in that picture. So they made sure Leo knew he fit everywhere, that he was wanted and loved and irreplaceable. Dante had individual time with just him. Lena took him to the zoo, just the two of them, and let him talk about his fears without judgment. What if Dad loves Mia more because she's his real daughter, and I'm not? Leo asked one afternoon, feeding penguins with Lena. You're both his real children, Leo. Biology doesn't determine how much someone can love you. But Mia's his and Lena's together. I'm just from his old wife who died. Lena knelt down, making sure she had his full attention. Listen to me. Your dad loves you so much it actually scares him sometimes. I've seen it. The way he worries about you, the way he'd do anything to keep you safe and happy. That's not going to change because Mia's in the picture or because your dad and I are together. You promise? I promise. And Leo, I love you too. Not because I have to, but because you're you. Because you're brave and kind and you make my daughter laugh. You're part of this family now and nothing's going to change that. Leo threw his arms around her neck, holding tight. I love you too. And Mia, even when she's annoying, she can be pretty annoying sometimes, Lena agreed, making him laugh. Slowly, carefully, they built something that resembled a family. It wasn't traditional. There were still 2 apartments, complicated schedules, moments of tension when old wounds surfaced. But it was theirs, and it was working. Christmas that year was the first time they did a holiday together. Dante and Leo came over Christmas morning, and the kids opened presents in a tornado of wrapping paper and excitement. Leo got the remote control car he'd been begging for. Mia got an entire collection of new dinosaurs and promptly organized them by era and ferocity level. She's very serious about her dinosaurs, Dante observed, watching Mia lecture Leo on the difference between Cretaceous and Jurassic periods. She gets that from you, the intensity. She gets the stubbornness from you. Fair. They cooked dinner together. Well, Lena cooked while Dante tried to help, and mostly just got in the way. The kids set the table, arguing over napkin placement with the kind of intensity only siblings could manage. And when they finally sat down to eat, Lena looked around the table and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. What are you thinking? Dante asked softly, while the kids debated whether or not Turkey counted as a dinosaur descendant. That I'm happy, terrified, but happy. Good terrified or bad terrified? Both. The kind that means this matters enough to be scary. He laced his fingers through hers under the table. I'm terrified too, but I'm also the happiest I've been in 5 years, so I'll take it. After dinner, after the kids had crashed from sugar and excitement, after they'd cleaned up the wrapping paper disaster, Dante pulled Lena aside. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his pocket. Dante, we said no gifts. It's not really a gift, more of a question. He pulled out a key. Move in with me, you and Mia. Not tomorrow, not next week, but soon. Let's stop pretending we're just co-parenting and actually build a life together. Lena stared at the key, her heart racing. That's a big step. I know, but we're already doing this, Lena. Already acting like a family. Why not make it official? Because official means I can't run if things get hard. Exactly. It means we work through it instead of running, together. Lena looked at the key, then at Dante, then toward the living room where both kids had fallen asleep on the couch, tangled together like puppies. I need to think about it, she said finally. Take all the time you need. The key will be here when you're ready. She took it anyway, the metal warm from his pocket. That night, after Dante and Leo had gone home and she'd carried Mia to bed, Lena sat holding the key and trying to imagine what it would mean to say yes. It meant trusting Dante completely, meant believing he wouldn't disappear, wouldn't choose something else over her and Mia. It meant letting go of the safety of her own space, her own control. It also meant Mia could have her wish. A real family, all together. It meant Leo wouldn't have to split time between houses, wouldn't have to pack a bag every few days. It meant building something permanent instead of provisional. The next morning, Lena called Maya. He asked us to move in with him. And you said? That I needed to think about it. Lena, what is there to think about? You love him. The kids are already inseparable. You practically live there half the time anyway. But what if nothing? You've been waiting for something to go wrong for 6 months and everything's gone right. At some point, you have to stop waiting for disaster and start believing in the good stuff. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just finally started listening. Lena made her decision a week later, on New Year's Eve. They were at Dante's apartment, bigger than hers, with enough room for both kids to have their own bedrooms. The kids were building yet another elaborate kingdom, this time with blocks and blankets and every pillow in the house. Dante was in the kitchen, attempting to make appetizers for the small party they'd planned. Lena watched him for a moment. This man who'd learned how to French braid hair and tell stories about brave knights and show up every single time he was needed. She walked up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist. Yes. He turned in her arms. Yes to what? To moving in. To building a life together. To all of it. The smile that broke across his face was worth every moment of fear. Yeah, but I have conditions. Name them. Mia gets the room with the window seat. I want final say on furniture placement, and you have to promise that if I get scared and want to run, you'll talk me down instead of letting me go. Done, and absolutely done. He kissed her, deep and thorough. When? End of the month? I need to give notice on my apartment, pack everything. I'll help. We'll all help. They told the kids that night, after midnight, after the ball had dropped and they'd toasted with sparkling cider. Mia, Leo, we have something to tell you, Dante started. Both kids looked up from their kingdom, curious. Lena and Mia are going to move in with us, Dante continued. We're all going to live together, be a real family. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Mia shrieked and launched herself at Lena. Really? For real? Forever? For real. Forever. I get a brother all the time. Mia was bouncing now, pure joy radiating from her. Leo, did you hear? We're going to be real siblings. Leo looked at Dante, his expression uncertain. Everyone staying? No one's leaving? No one's leaving, Dante confirmed, pulling his son close. We're all staying, together. Even when it's hard? Leo's voice was small, vulnerable. Especially when it's hard. Leo nodded slowly, processing. Then, can Mia have the room next to mine so we can build a tunnel between them? We're not building a tunnel through the walls, Lena said. But we could make a hallway fort, Dante offered. Connect your rooms that way. Yes! Both kids started planning immediately, their excitement feeding off each other. Lena met Dante's eyes over their heads and saw her own emotions reflected back. Joy, terror, hope, love. All of it messy and complicated and absolutely right. The move happened over 3 weeks in January. Maya helped pack, making commentary on everything Lena tried to keep. You're not bringing those curtains. They're hideous. This couch is from 2015, Lena. Let it go. Why do you have 3 cheese graters? They combined households, which meant negotiating everything from kitchen organization to bathroom schedules. Mia and Leo fought over toys, tested the boundaries of their new arrangement, and generally made chaos. But they also looked out for each other in ways that made Lena's chest ache. Leo sharing his favorite dinosaur with Mia when she couldn't sleep. Mia standing up to a kid at the park who made fun of Leo's stutter. Dante was patient through all of it, even when Lena had minor panic attacks about closet space and lost her entire collection of spatulas in the move. He talked her down, made her laugh, reminded her why they were doing this. Because we love each other, he'd say. Because the kids need stability, she'd counter. That too, but mainly because we're better together than apart. 3 months after moving in, Lena woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and found Leo standing in the hallway crying. Hey, what's wrong? She knelt beside him. Bad dream. About Mom. She was leaving again, and I couldn't stop her. Oh, sweetheart, come here. Lena pulled him into a hug. It was just a dream. You're safe. I miss her. Even though I don't remember her, I miss having a mom. The words cut straight to Lena's heart. I know. That's okay. You're allowed to miss her. But I also... Leo hiccuped. I like having you. Is that bad? Is it bad that I want you to be my mom, even though I had a different mom before? Lena had to swallow hard before she could answer. It's not bad at all. Love doesn't work that way, Leo. You can love your first mom and also love other people. Your heart's big enough for both. Do you think she'd be mad? That I want you instead? I think she'd be happy you found someone to love you. That's what parents want, for their kids to be loved and safe and happy. Are you happy? Leo asked, looking up at her with Dante's dark eyes. Yeah, I really am. Are you? Most of the time, except when Mia takes my stuff. Lena laughed. Bear, want me to walk you back to bed? Can I sleep in your room? With you and Dad? Sure, but you have to sleep in the middle. Your dad snores. I know, it's so loud. They climbed into bed, Leo between Lena and Dante. Dante woke up long enough to register his son was there, pulled him close, and went back to sleep. Lena lay awake, listening to both of them breathe, and felt something settle in her chest. This was her family. Messy, complicated, built from broken pieces. But hers. Spring brought new challenges and new joys. Dante had fully extricated himself from his family's business, using his connections to build something legitimate, a foundation focused on helping at-risk youth access education and healthcare. Lena came on board part-time, using her experience from the community health center to shape their programs. They worked well together, bouncing ideas off each other, challenging each other's assumptions. Sometimes they fought, about funding priorities, about organizational structure, about Dante's tendency to micromanage. But they always worked through it, remembering what they were building and why it mattered. The kids started at the same school in the fall. Lena watched them walk in together on the first day, Leo holding Mia's hand because she was nervous about her new classroom. Her heart nearly burst. They're going to be okay, Dante said, reading her mind. I know, when did they get so big? When we weren't looking. He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. Come on, let's go get breakfast before we both become that couple crying in the parking lot. Too late. I'm already crying. Me too. They were still figuring things out, how to balance work and parenting, how to handle disagreements without falling into old patterns, how to navigate the occasional appearance of people from Dante's past who didn't understand his new life. But they were figuring it out together, and that made all the difference. One evening in October, almost a year after Lena and Mia had moved in, Dante called a family meeting. Both kids groaned. Family meetings usually meant someone was in trouble or there were new chore assignments. No one's in trouble, Dante assured them. I just have something I want to ask. All of you. They gathered in the living room, Leo and Mia on the couch, already whispering theories to each other. Lena in the armchair, curious and slightly nervous. Dante stood in front of them, looking more uncertain than Lena had seen him in months. I've been thinking about our family, about what it means, what we want it to be. And I realized there's something missing. A dog? Mia asked hopefully. Because I've been thinking we need a dog. Not a dog, though we can talk about that later. Dante smiled. I'm talking about making this official, legal, permanent. Lena's heart started racing. Dante, let me finish. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. I'm not doing this the traditional way because nothing about us has ever been traditional. But I wanted to ask all of you, not just Lena. He opened the box. Inside were 2 rings, one clearly an engagement ring, the other smaller, simpler. Lena Carter, you are the love of my life. You've given me everything I didn't know I was missing. Honesty, partnership, a real family. Will you marry me? Lena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Dante slipped the engagement ring on her finger, then turned to the kids. And Leo, Mia, I want to adopt both of you. Officially make us a family in every way. Leo, I'm already your dad legally, but I want to ask you, do you want Lena to adopt you too? To be your mom in every way? Leo's eyes went wide. Really? She could really be my mom? If you want her to be, and if she agrees. Leo looked at Lena, hope and fear warring on his face. Would you want to? To be my real mom? I would be honored, Lena managed through her tears. I already love you like you're mine, Leo. This would just make it official. Yes! Leo launched himself at her. Yes, yes, yes! Dante turned to Mia, who was watching everything with huge eyes. And Mia, would you be okay with me adopting you, officially being your dad on all the paperwork, not just in practice? You mean I'd get your last name too? Like Leo? If you want it. Would I still be Mama's daughter? Always. You'd just also officially be my daughter too. Mia thought about it for approximately 3 seconds. Okay, but I get to keep my middle name, and I get final approval on the adoption paperwork outfit. Everyone laughed, the tension breaking. Deal, Dante said. He pulled out the second ring, a simple band. This is for us. For all of us. It's a family ring. We each get one, so we always remember we chose this. Chose each other. There were 4 rings in the box, Lena realized. 1 for each of them. They put them on together, a mismatched family standing in their living room making promises that had nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with showing up. With trying. with loving each other through the messy, complicated reality of being human. The wedding happened 6 months later in the spring. Small, intimate, just family and close friends. Maya stood up with Lena, crying through the entire ceremony. Marcus was there with their infant son. A few of Dante's cousins who'd supported his choice to leave the family business. Lena's colleagues from work. And Leo and Mia, dressed up and taking their roles as ring bearers seriously. The vows were simple. They'd written them together, sitting at the kitchen table late one night while the kids slept. "I promise to show up," Lena said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Even when it's hard. Even when I'm scared. I promise to trust you with my heart and to be worthy of your trust in return. I promise to build a life with you, not just for the kids, but for us. Because we deserve happiness too." Dante's voice was rough with emotion. "I promise to never take you for granted, to choose you every day. Not out of obligation, but out of love. I promise to be present for our children, to be the father I should have been from the beginning. And I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that this, what we've built together, was worth every risk." When they kissed, both kids cheered, and Lena felt the last piece of her fear fall away, replaced by something stronger, certainty. The reception was a blur of dancing and laughter and terrible speeches from Maya that made everyone cry. Leo and Mia ran around with the other children, high on cake and attention. At one point, Lena found them in the corner plotting something that probably involved the centerpieces. "What are you two scheming?" she asked. "Nothing," they said in unison, which meant definitely something. "We were just thinking," Mia said carefully, "now that you guys are married and we're all officially a family, maybe it's time to talk about getting a dog." "We're not getting a dog tonight." "But someday?" Lena looked at Dante, who'd appeared beside her. "Your call. You're the one who'd end up walking it." "We'll think about it," Dante told the kids. "But only if you two start cleaning your rooms without being asked." "That's blackmail," Leo observed. "That's parenting," Dante corrected. Later, when the party had wound down and the kids were asleep in the hotel room Maya was watching them in, Lena and Dante stood on the balcony looking out at the city lights. "We did it," Lena said. "We actually made this work. Did you doubt we would?" "Every single day for the first 6 months." "What about now?" Lena turned to face him, this man who'd found her twice, who'd fought for their family when it would have been easier to walk away. "Now I think we might actually pull this off. Make it to old age together, watch our kids grow up, become those annoying grandparents who give too much sugar and questionable advice." "I can't wait." Dante pulled her close. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me another chance, for trusting me with Mia, for loving Leo, for building this with me. You gave me the same things. We did this together." "Yeah, we did." They stood there wrapped in each other while the city spread out below them. And Lena thought about the journey that had brought them here, the mistakes and heartbreak, the 5 years apart, the painful reunion and tentative rebuilding. None of it had been easy. Most of it had been terrifying. But looking at Dante, thinking about their children sleeping nearby, about the life they'd created from the wreckage of their past, Lena knew one thing with absolute certainty. It had been worth it. All of it. 2 years later, Lena stood in the bathroom staring at a positive pregnancy test, her hands shaking. They hadn't been trying. Between work and the kids and building the foundation, they'd barely had time to think about expanding their family. But life had other plans. "Lena? You okay in there?" Dante's voice through the door. She opened it, held out the test, watched his expression cycle through shock and joy and something that looked like awe. "We're having a baby," he whispered. "We're having a baby," she confirmed. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. "Are you happy?" "Terrified, but yeah, I'm happy." "Me too." They told the kids over dinner that night. Leo and Mia had conflicting reactions. Leo was excited, already planning what kind of big brother he'd be. Mia was less enthused about sharing attention with another sibling. "Will you still have time for me?" she asked, her voice small. "Always," Lena promised. "There's always time for you, all of you." The pregnancy was easier than her first had been, mostly because she wasn't alone this time. Dante was there for every appointment, every midnight craving, every moment of panic when she worried something might go wrong. The kids helped too, in their way, arguing over baby names, fighting over who got to help decorate the nursery, generally making chaos that kept Lena from overthinking. The baby, a boy they named Marcus, after Maya's husband who'd become like a brother to Dante, arrived on a warm day in September. Leo and Mia met him in the hospital, both awed and gentle in a way that made Lena's heart swell. "He's so small," Mia whispered, touching his tiny hand. "You were this small once," Lena told her. "Really? Really? And Leo was too." "We should protect him," Leo said seriously. "Make sure nothing bad ever happens to him." "That's what big siblings do," Dante agreed, his arm around Leo's shoulders. Watching them all together, her husband, her 3 children, the family she'd built from broken pieces and second chances, Lena felt complete in a way she'd never thought possible. 5 years later, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, Lena stood in her kitchen making dinner while chaos reigned around her. Leo, now 13, was at the table doing homework while simultaneously texting his friends. Mia, 12, and full of preteen attitude, was arguing with Marcus about screen time. Dante was trying to mediate while also answering work emails. It was loud and messy, and exactly the kind of ordinary chaos Lena had once thought she'd never have. "Mama, Marcus took my tablet," Mia yelled. "Marcus, give it back," Lena said without turning around. "But she had it for 2 hours." "And now it's dinner time, so nobody gets tablets. Leo, set the table. Mia, help your brother. Marcus, go wash your hands." The kids grumbled, but obeyed, their complaints filling the kitchen with familiar noise. Dante came up behind Lena, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Remember when you thought this wouldn't work?" he murmured in her ear. "I was an idiot. You were scared. There's a difference." "Same result, though. I almost let fear stop me from having this." Dante turned her to face him. "But you didn't. You chose to be brave instead. And look what we built." Lena looked at their family, loud, chaotic, imperfect, hers. "Yeah, look what we built." That night, after dinner was eaten and homework was finished and Marcus was finally asleep after 3 stories and 2 glasses of water, Lena and Dante sat on their back porch with glasses of wine. "Leo asked me today if I remembered his first mom," Dante said quietly. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That I remember her, but not the way I remember you. She was part of my old life. You're my real life." Lena took his hand. "He's okay, though? With everything?" "Yeah, he just wanted to make sure it was okay to not think about her much. To be happy with what we have now." "And you told him?" "I told him happiness isn't betrayal, that we honor the past by building good futures." Dante smiled. He said that sounded like something you'd say. "Smart kid." "They all are. Wonder where they get it." "Definitely not from you." Dante laughed, pulling her close. "I love you. You know that?" "I know. I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance in the yard. After everything they'd been through, the mistakes and heartbreak, the 5 years apart, the painful rebuilding, they'd made it. Not to perfect, but to real. To a life built on honesty and second chances and the stubborn belief that love was worth fighting for. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked. Lena thought about the scared waitress she'd been at 23, falling for a man she couldn't have, about running away pregnant and alone, convinced she was doing the right thing, about the terror of letting Dante back into her life, the fear that history would repeat itself. "I'm thinking about how far we've come, how different things could have been if either of us had given up. But we didn't. No, we didn't. Any regrets?" Lena looked through the window at their house, at the evidence of the life they'd built. 3 kids sleeping upstairs, photos on the walls documenting years of birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments, a foundation doing work that mattered, a partnership that had survived being tested and emerged stronger. "None," she said. "Not a single one." And sitting there with Dante under the stars, surrounded by the evidence of everything they'd overcome, Lena understood something she'd been too scared to believe before. Sometimes the stories that start with the worst choices lead to the best endings. Sometimes running away is exactly what you need to do to find your way home. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to take a second chance, you get to build something better than anything you imagined. Their story hadn't been easy. It hadn't been simple or straightforward or free of pain, but it had been real and honest and ultimately worth every terrifying step. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything.